Oh, we got some overtime hockey in this game, huh? Going to be an interesting finish. We'll see if the Canadians could get it done. Welcome back, Devils fans. It is your host, Ace, here on Running with the Devils, where we are talking New Jersey Devils hockey all year long. Please hit that subscribe button, smash the like, share with a friend. Thank you very much. And it's not necessarily a huge news cycle the past couple days for the New Jersey Devils, but a few things worth mentioning before we get into the the hot, if you will, comments from Brenden Dillon that I think a lot of people are running a little bit crazy with. But the first piece of news that comes out a few days ago, Megan Duggan has departed the franchise to become the general manager of the Hamilton PWHL franchise. And this note from the New Jersey Devils on X says, "Thank you, Megan, for everything you gave the Devils organization over the past 5 years. Congratulations on earning this incredible opportunity. Wishing you the best of luck with PWHL Hamilton." And there you have it. The next step, if you will, of the Sonny Maida house cleaning, I would say. And who knows, right? Maybe this was similar to the situation with Fitz, where she went to the team and said, "I may have this opportunity. Do you plan on keeping me around?" It could totally be aside from the wishes of Sonny Maida. But either way, Megan Duggan, who has been the director of player development for the past 5 years for the Devils, has moved on to become the general manager of a PWHL team. Good for her. I will say, development, I think, has been a pain point for the New Jersey Devils over the past several seasons, along with drafting and many other things. But if you really look at her time here, I would say, who did we really develop? I don't know. The Utica's in pretty bad shape. A lot of the guys that we had hoped years ago would be NHL contributors now really haven't been. But we will see. We shall see. I'm scanning the comments here. If anyone else is elevated to that role, and perhaps that could be a spot for Sergey Brylin potentially. We don't really know what's going on with, with the move with Sarge. He obviously is not going to be behind the bench any longer, but he's staying with the team. So maybe this is something that Brylin's interested. I'm very curious to see what becomes of Sergey Brylin within the organization, but I am glad that he's still around, obviously. I think he has a lot to give, and especially helping some of the younger Russian players and some of the other ones that are, in the future. Big Mike Yegorov between the pipes will be in New Jersey at some point, hopefully, along with the big bruising defenseman Anton Salayev, who's expected, a lot of stories on him too, expected to sign his entry-level contract, I think in the next probably month or so. Another interesting thing to keep an eye on. And then a couple other little news and notes here. Adirondack and the Devils extend affiliation. The Thunder has agreed to the third-year option to affiliate with the Devils Comets through the 26-27 season. The Adirondack Thunder announced on Friday the club has agreed to the third-year option to affiliate with the New Jersey Devils and the Utica Comets through the 26-27 season. On behalf of the New Jersey Devils organization, we are excited to continue our affiliation with the Adirondack Thunder through the 26-27 season. New Jersey Devils assistant general manager and Utica Comets general manager Braden Birch said, "We look forward to continuing the success the Thunder had this past season and appreciate the developmental focus they provide for our AHL and NHL clubs." And there's not really too much else to talk about there. Great times in Hudson Falls. I went to a playoff game there a couple of years back. Actually, 2 playoff games, games 6 and 7, where the Thunder found a way to win in a game 7. But good times. If you live in that area, I know some of you had mentioned to me in the past you had checked out games there. ECHL hockey is phenomenal. I really was hoping that the Devils were going to be affiliated with the Trenton team. I think it's the Thunderhawks, but the Islanders have claimed them as their ECHL affiliate. So unfortunately for people living closer to the Rock, the ECHL team is pretty far away. Pretty far away. But if you haven't had a chance to check out the game there, I highly recommend it. It's pretty cool. And before we get into my man Dilly, I got to mention my friends at LOWSPORT. I just dropped the link in the description, but use code RWD15. This is just sick. Totally beautiful piece of merchandise here. The USA Jersey Hoodie, and it has the correct J Hughes on the back. The J Hughes. The Nike jerseys, everyone was complaining, it just says Hughes. It is unfortunate. It is what it is. But this has J Hughes. They have it in blue. We got the blue version. But use the code RDW15 for 15% off. They have the nice lightweight one. Got the blue Hughes as well. Link in the chat. Just drop the link in the chat. But Jay Hughes. This thing's sideways. Jay Hughes. Not just Hughes, Jay Hughes. Check it out. They have some cool bobbleheads. They got all kinds of stuff. Pucks, pins. I got the pins. We got the pucks. But use code RWD15 for 15% off, friends. But check them out. Great stuff. And now we get to the big looming interview. Brenden Dillon was on a podcast, and a lot of people, I think, kind of lost their minds with some of what he had said. And I'm sure a lot of you are probably like, well, what did he say? And let's just take a look at the clip. It's a few minutes long. I'm going to play the whole clip. I'll put the link in the description after this so you can watch the whole interview if you'd like. But this is the whole little segment about the Devils and their 25-26 season. And this is what people have been kind of talking about for the past couple of days. Here it is. Our man, Brenden Dillon, being pretty bluntly honest about the 25-26 New Jersey
Devils.
Devils.
A playoff spot. They have the Devils. You have a new general manager in Sonny Meda, who's got an issue on his hands. Simon Nemec, your defense partner, has asked for a trade. But have you talked with Sonny at all? And if so, what were your impressions?
Yeah, I had a great conversation with Sonny probably a week or two ago. Just kind of talking hockey, getting to know one another, and I feel for him, it's been well documented. He's from Jersey here. He loves the Devils. He's a big fan of the team, of kind of the pillars we seem to have in place here, and it was a disappointing season, no matter how you cut it for the Devils, individually, as a team. I mean, right on down from forwards to D to goaltending. There's a reason why we weren't in playoffs, and I think that's the key for us with the roster makeup we do have is we're built to win now. Sonny wants us to win now. Whatever way, I mean, we just got to get better in every facet, and I think for us as players, we should all have that chip on our shoulder and the mentality of going into your summer training and your summer ice sessions that we got a lot to prove next year. We're one of those teams that isn't going to be taken for serious next year because we weren't in playoffs, and we're just one of those 16 that was on the outside looking in. So that should piss us off. Yep. It should be something that Nemo. I enjoyed playing with him. He's got a bright future. He's a guy that I feel like between the offensive side of the puck, he wants the puck on his stick. He wants to be running a power play. We've got a lot of those guys here with between Dougie Hamilton and Lukehughes. So, that's above my pay grade in the sense of those decisions and how things are going to shake out. I feel like we had, unfortunately, a lot of those elephants in the room this year. That was just the reality of, is this guy upset because this guy's got more ice time, or I should be playing where that guy's playing, or I wish I was playing with that guy as my winger or D partner. And it's hard enough to win in this league when you're healthy and when you're just trying to beat the other team, let alone having other distractions going on. And we just had way too many of those that hopefully we'll get the ship righted and can get back to the winning ways we need to be at.
Okay. You're talking to a Vancouver audience. I have to ask you this. The Hughes brothers, did they ever talk about Quinn moving to New Jersey?
I mean, I think that was a well documented, whether it was social media or it was Donnie and Dolly's show or it was a
probably
Vancouver Sportsnet thing. I mean, you see the Foligno brothers, they get to play together this year, the joy they had for their families, their parents. I'm sure it's been talked about the Hughes household, and before those guys are all done, I'm sure they'd love to play with one another. I know how valuable Jack and Luke, their friendship and their brotherhood, and I know Quinn's a big part of that too, as the oldest brother. So whether that's them hanging out in New York at the end of their hockey seasons or just back in Michigan, I'm pretty sure all three still live together. But you just got to look at it from the hockey standpoint, I'm sure, from these GM chairs before you're looking at it from the what might sell some hockey jerseys. So I think that's something for Luke too, that to keep in mind. And Dougie and Nemo, like you bring in Quinnhughes, well, all of a sudden your power play time is probably going to get back to you, right? So there's a lot of different factors that come in, and I know for myself, and I hope it's shared throughout everybody. Like we just want to win, and whatever that takes, and we'll kind of see how things play out this summer.
And there you have it, Brenden Dillon, kind of giving a confirmation, I would say, of what many of us had believed kind of was going on with the team this season in regards of locker room dynamics and all of these things. I think a lot of people were shocked. I certainly was not whatsoever. If you kind of read between the lines as the season went on, the stories about Dougie potentially blocking trades to teams not on his approved list. And some of that may have been in conjunction with Fitz trying to free up cap space for the Quinn Hughes deal that somehow got botched despite having all the advantages in the world. And then you kind of have the Nemo stuff. Obviously, over the last couple of days, there was reports that Nemo had requested a trade. Then there was reports that it was a misunderstanding and a bad translation. A lot of things there, but the phrase elephants in the room, I think, is very telling in terms of what was going on. And I don't know how anyone, needed Brenden Dillon to give that confirmation to realize that. It was a very public event with the whole Quinn Hughes thing. Obviously, Jack and Luke were probably thrilled in anticipation of bringing Quinn to the Devils. There was that whole story that when he was in town to play the Devils, his hockey bag was in Jack's car, all this stuff. They probably thought it was a foregone conclusion. I would really love to know all of the nitty-gritty details of how Fitz blew that, but it doesn't matter. It's in the past now. But yeah, elephants in the room. I mean, lots of drama, lots of nonsense. I know a lot of people, and I'm going to get to the comments in a bit, guys. Bear with me for a second. A lot of people saying, this is Keefe's fault, all these things. And in the, or people talking about the lack of leadership, and all of this stuff, I think, is somewhat true. It is hard for a single captain or a coach or one single person to kind of reel all of this in. And then obviously when a team is underperforming like the Devils did, it adds to all of it. And so as many people have said and pointed out, winning cures everything. I've said that forever. Winning cures everything. When your team is playing well, when you're meeting expectations, when guys are feeling good, you typically don't see as much of this chatter, noise, gossip type stuff. But the team sucked, and all of this stuff kind of came with it, and it did seem like a drama-filled sort of season. We had Chicago cut, then the Dougie thing, the Quinn thing, and now there's these stories of Nemo, and who knows what the real story with Nemo is. I'd have to believe that he probably is frustrated with the organization. Now, I'm not going to say that he definitely requested a trade, but it certainly would not surprise me if he did, or if at least his grievances with the team were talked about with someone, whether that's his close circle, one of these overseas, news organizations in Slovakia. But it's been kind of a bumpy road for him, I would say, at least a little bit in terms of, bouncing up and down, earlier in his career. And he probably feels like he wasn't treated the same as some other guys, whether that's true or not, I guess depends on who you talk to. But I'm sure there's a little bit of frustration there. And Dilly even said, Nemo wants to be a power play guy. Well, also, as Dilly pointed out, you got Dougie Hamilton and Luke Hughes here. Luke Hughes obviously is not going anywhere, but you have a couple other guys that are probably ahead of you in terms of the pecking order for running the power play. And so if that's something Nemo wants to do immediately, it's not going to be so easy with those guys here. And maybe it will be better for him to be shipped out elsewhere where the opportunity would be greater. I don't know. That's one of the biggest question marks for me with Sonny Maeda in his first offseason as Devils general manager is, is Nemo going to get traded? Supposedly he wants a lot of money. There's been those reports. We're overtime has begun, folks. But it's a lot, and if he wants $8 million, $9 million, obviously that's going to be tough for the Devils to swing given their cap situation, especially if Dougie's here. So we will see. That's one of the biggest question marks to me in a long line of question marks in terms of what Sonny Maeda is going to do this offseason. Is Dougie or Nemo or both of them going to be dealt? I just cannot see any scenario where they're both here next year. You're talking about, Luke making $9 million, Dougie making $9 million, and then Nemo at potentially even, that 7 to 8 number. That's a lot of money tied up in 3 defensemen on an already expensive blue line. It's just not going to happen. And so is Nemo the one shipped? Is Dougie the one shipped? Does Sonny go big for the, retooling, revamping of the defense over the summer and trade both of them to open up some cap space for other moves? I do not have the answers, but we will find out this summer. But yeah, Dilly confirming what everybody knew. And I saw some people try to call Dilly out that like it was a bad teammate move to say this stuff. I don't think it was at all. He didn't get into nitty-gritty specifics. I don't think he said anything crazy or anything that most sensible people would have an issue with. I think it was just kind of a very candid look into what was going on during the season. And it's unfortunate. Hopefully next season is a big bounce back one for the guys as a whole, as the team, and for some individual players. But it's something to keep an eye on. The defense is certainly going to be interesting. What is Sonny going to do? And we will find out soon. But I go to the comments. We go to the comments. Stiz says, did Nemo actually ask for a trade? So we're getting conflicting reports. Who knows? At this point in the internet age and X and all these things, people run wild with speculation and rumors. And so it came out that he did. Then they said they didn't. No one knows. I'm sure there's some sort of friction there. Maybe that's tied to Fitz. And real quick, back to the Dilly comments. And I hate to continually kind of talk about this, man, but in the end, all that stuff with the elephants in the room, I do blame that all on Fitz. As I've told you guys, I learned everything I know, or most of it anyway, from Uncle Lou Lamoriello, and team culture is huge. And I've told you guys for how long now? How long have I talked about my belief that the culture is completely broken and needs to be changed? And that comes from the top down. That comes from the general manager. I mean, obviously the owner has some impact in that too, but the general manager really sets the tone for the club. Lou Lamoriello did that during the dynasty years of the Devils. He had character guys in the locker room on the team at all times. And that just has not been the case here. And Fitz even told the world, was that a few years ago, that they were basically fostering a country club atmosphere. And there it is. Carolina wins in overtime. Man, this could be a nice 7-game series. Rough one for Montreal. What was I talking about? The culture. Yeah. I have to blame Fitz for it. And it's not a Keefe thing. I know some people, like I said before, were kind of going at Nico. I mean, Nico can only do so much. You're talking about a guy with his peers. Yeah, they can have some influence on it. But in the end, when you have all these dynamics at play, it's going to be hard for any one guy to kind of get it all together or keep it together. And it starts at the top. And so, unfortunately, this is another thing I am going to blame Fitz for, but it's nothing new. I've said the culture was broken for a long time. I think that reared its ugly head this season. And hopefully Sonny makes some moves or whatever he has to do to get that to where it needs to be, because the culture, I feel like, has been broken for a long time. Brandon says, I've seen a few posts from people from the team saying that the Nemec trade is complete BS. It could be. Mooseman, this is why bringing Sheldon Keefe back is mind-numbingly dumb. Keefe could not handle the locker room last year. Why bring him back to mishandle the locker room again? Again, expecting the coach to be able to manage all of this on top of their other, day-to-day duties, I don't think is necessarily fair. Sure, could he maybe have done a better job with it? It's possible, but this is a GM issue, in my opinion, and I do think that Keefe deserved a chance for the upcoming season with a competent GM in place. He had not had that for his first 2 seasons with the team, and to scapegoat another coach, I think would have been just a bad move. I can't blame Keefe for it. Look at the playoff rosters. Like, come on, guys. I understand a lot of people are down on Keefe, but let's see what he does with a competent GM in place and with hopefully a mostly healthy team. And that starts with Jack Hughes. I do think the team will look very different. And then obviously we've heard the speculations that perhaps Fitz was influencing the system Keefe was running and some of these other things. And so I do like giving him the opportunity next year to prove himself with Sonny Maeda in his first season as GM. And we will see how that goes. Hoping for the best for all involved. John NJDevils 45, Dilly speaking the truth. I like it. How could you not? Dilly's such a legend. Always like hearing Dilly talk. It was great to see him on the Hockey Night in Canada panel last week. I don't know if he's still doing that or not, but Jake Allen also had a little stint at the desk. Both look like they're going to have illustrious broadcasting careers when their playing days are over. Crazy Alex says, if Nemo wants out, use him to get Brady. Perhaps. I'm very curious as to what his actual trade value is. Let me just see something here. But I definitely think the Devils have plenty of assets to win a Brady Tkachuk sweepstakes if it comes down to it. Plenty of pieces to dangle. If Brady is in fact on the move, you cannot come in second. You got to get him. That guy brings it all. We've talked about this. I'm not going to talk about it again. Checks all the boxes. Brady Tkachuk. And that would signify a big shift in the culture of this team, in my opinion. Speaking of which, and I don't like paparazzi stuff, if I'm being honest. I feel a little bit weird about it. And that's why I'm not going to show the photos, because I just think it's people cross the line. But this is the world we live in today with public figures. But the internet was set ablaze. The X Twitter was popping off last night as photos and video surfaced of, drumroll please, Jack Hughes, Quinn Hughes, Tate McRae, and Brady Tkachuk at the Parker House down the shore. People were going nuts. Look, Quinn's, and obviously taking it to levels that, it meant nothing other than they most likely were probably staying at Brady's house down the shore. And they went out to a bar, a very popular bar, I would say. And we're seen there, and there was people taking, the paparazzi style photos and videos of all of them. And I kind of feel bad for these kids, if I'm being real. Like, they can't, they're mid-20s. For the most part, they'll never have like a regular life, right? Anywhere they go, there's people, taking pictures and video. And it's something that the old school guys never had to deal with. For all you young people, there once was a time in life, in society, when you could go somewhere and not only was not everyone not on their phone, but they didn't have the capability to be shoving cameras in people's faces everywhere they go. And you had a higher level of anonymity and privacy that you do not have in 2026. And so they were all photographed or videoed. People saying, oh, Quinn's coming to the Devils. Like, none of that means anything, honestly. These are a bunch of famous and wealthy kids, essentially, having fun at a bar or trying to have fun at a bar. I'm very curious as to that whole dynamic, actually. I don't even know if you could really have fun in that scenario, given, that everyone's gawking at you and shoving the thing. But I'm sure we'll be seeing it throughout the summer when Jack Hughes is spotted at places, especially when Tate is there or his brother Quinn or Brady Tkachuk. But you guys know how I feel about Brady, but that just kind of reminded me of all the paparazzi footage that we were treated to last night on Twitter. Holmes, it sounds like a lot of bitching from the softies. Moose Man says, Dougie has to go. This isn't rocket science. You guys know how I feel about Dougie. I mean, listen, is there complaints about every player that's ever played the game? Yeah, there's no perfect players. I do think everyone will miss Dougie at some point when he's gone. He does do a lot for this team. I feel like he's been definitely underappreciated and undervalued by a large portion of the fan base. And I do think there is potentially a world where he is still here next season and Nemo is not. I just think, there's something I have to believe at the root of it. There is some sort of tension between Nemo and the team, given all the things that we had talked about. And maybe it's nothing. And maybe, he is signed to something the team can accept and they move on from Dougie. Obviously, if you're looking at the long-term future versus the now. But if the Devils were going into a playoff run tomorrow, hypothetically, and you had to pick one of those guys, I would pick Dougie. But that's a one-off, very specific basis. But if Sonny truly is trying to win now, and Brenden said that he was, and at the press conference, if you remember, Sonny Maida said he was trying to win. When I asked him if he thought the team was a win now team ready to contend, he said he wanted to win now and later. And so he's going to have to figure out the juggling act in terms of making moves to be competitive and try to win now, and also not completely disregarding the future. But I do think Dougie is the guy out of the two. If I had to pick to truly win now, I would have to go Dougie. But obviously that's, more with an emphasis on the right now. Now, long-term, obviously Nemo is the guy you'd rather have just due to age and everything else. But if he doesn't want to be here, if he's a malcontent, who wants guys around that don't want to be here? It's definitely one of the more interesting plot lines for me for the summer is which one of them go, or is it both of them? But I do think people will eventually realize what Dougie did when he's no longer here, whenever that may be. David Chime says, Dillon is calling out his teammates. I'm not convinced he's wrong to do so. Oh, he's certainly not wrong, David. He's calling it like it is. He is one of the leaders on the team. I'm sure he's talked to a lot of guys one-on-one or potentially in small groups, whatever it is. But you can only do so much. And I have told you guys in the past, I had believed that there was an organizational fail stemming from years back when guys like Nico, Bratter, Jack came into the league. There really was no veterans to truly mentor them along the way. You know, a guy like Dilly, guys like Markey, those would have been invaluable guys to have in the locker room when these guys were all rookies. But there was a lot of turnover over those years. Obviously, you know, there's some of the dark years of the Devils, some pretty bad teams, and there was no real proven veterans that could help groom these kids in the league. They did not have it, and that's why I've referred to them as orphan players before. They kind of raised themselves in the league, and I think all of this is kind of a byproduct of that. A guy like Dilly, from when these guys first started out, would have been huge for them. And there's only so much that guys that are considered leaders in the room, you know, the Nasons, Connor Browns, the Brenden Dillons of the world, they can only do so much when they're coming into a situation from the outside versus had they had been there from the beginning. You know, when you're coming into an already kind of established culture, it's going to be hard for one or two guys to really change that. Michael says, when your team is underachieving, this kind of BS is going to crop up. Winning fixes a lot. Winning fixes everything, or at least most things. A lot of this stuff wouldn't have been nearly the issue it was if this team was humming along and looked like the team that a lot of us believed they were during that 8-game heater. What a great run that was. Brandon says, sounds like the team is just a gossip fest. Pro Bolt, Hamilton to SJ and package Nemec in the 12th pick for Nyes. Man, you won't let go of the Nyes thing. I don't think he's being traded. Obviously, there's been a lot of smoke around Dougie to San Jose. I mean, if I was Dougie and they were like, listen, we're trying to deal you to San Jose, I mean, how would you not welcome the California weather and the chance to play on a power play with Macklin Celebrini? I would think a lot of defensemen would be drooling at that potential. But we will see if that's revisited, or maybe it all goes away, like I said, and Dougie remains. But I really don't think Toronto's going to trade Nyes. I just can't see it. I think it'd be kind of crazy for them to do that. Mooseman says, if you move Hamilton, you keep Nemec. Yeah, I think that would be the preferred route. But like I said before, you know, I at a minimum, I firmly believe one of the two will be dealt. And I do think there's a situation where Sonny may move on from both. You know, lighten up some of those cap dollars on the blue line and allocate that to get some forwards. Yo Home says, Keefe lost the locker room. Keefe even told the team they had no balls. I don't know if he lost the locker room. I mean, to some extent, I think things just spiraled out of control, if you will. I mean, there's a lot going on, right? You have, at the time, a general manager who was doing nothing to help, was in hiding. People are running cover for him. He's leaking things out to the media. You have your star player cut his hand in a freak injury in November in Chicago cut, and then all these other things. And then again, I have to just constantly, I should say, refer to the same thing. When you approach guys to waive their clauses, and then he more than likely, again, speculation. This is just pure speculation, to be clear. I'm sure he had some sort of discussions with Jack and Luke about getting Quinn here, and he probably led them to believe that it was going to happen. And then it didn't. And so now you have a GM who approached guys to waive their trade protection to try to get two brothers on your team's older brother to unite all three of them. And then you fail to get it done. I mean, that's obviously going to cause some resentment and a lot of, you know, friction. That's a horrible situation to deal with. So you go to this guy, you're trying to trade him, you're trying to bring in their brother, and then you fail. That's horrible. Completely horrible. Pro Bowl says, I'm happy to see that Dillon put that out there so NJ could get their act together. Yeah, I think it probably was a little bit more of not like a warning shot, but it's a leader being very blunt about what happened, and it cannot happen again. Yo Home says, of course, you move Hamilton and keep Nemo. Keep is not going anywhere, Pro Bowl. He's here for sure. He is here for sure. Yo, Holmes says resigning Kovacevic with a no movement was so stupid. I do think Kovacevic still probably fighting some lagging injury sort of thing. The trade protection, I agree, that was stupid. You know, we've talked about this. Tied for the most trade protection contracts in the league. Obviously not ideal, handcuffed, and I do believe that is the main reason why they could not get Quinn Hughes. Just Fitz could not free up the cap space, and it sucks. The one deal that I did not have a complaint about the trade protection was Dougie Hamilton. He was a highly coveted free agent at the time. Teams throwing money at him. I'm sure most teams were probably giving him trade protection. So that one is one of the very few that I believe it was probably necessary to get the deal done. But as for the rest of them, and including Kovacevic, like, did you really need to give him trade protection? I don't think so. And it seemed excessive. But either way, I don't think, or at least under Fitz, he was very high on Kovacevic, and I don't think he would have tried to deal him. But I think it was $4 million. Like, how are you going to complain about that? Guys, we're living in the new cap era. You have to realize a guy like Kovacevic at $4 million. Yeah, I mean, just look what some of these guys are getting paid. The contracts are going to be absolutely wild. David Chime says, Dougie had his best defensive season of his career. Excellent 5-on-5. And when asked in PK, offense bounced back to elite levels second half of the season. People on Dougie parroting, I guess, Dougie parroting rep, not watching play. Now, David, you've been here for a while. You know I've talked about Dougie and defended him for quite some time. I just think it has become like a popular thing to kind of bash Dougie Hamilton, and I understand to some extent some of the stuff, but I mean overall, I don't see how you believe some of the discourse around him. I think it's kind of crazy. Brandon says getting rid of Nemec instead of Dougie would be the dumbest thing I would ever see. That's a Fitz move. Robbie's bench toss. Nemo's strength is his offensive talents, and he does not have the opportunity to use it here, missing even power play 2-time and on the third pairing. Again, at least power play time, he would definitely be power play 2 if Dougie was dealt. Now, does Nemo believe he should be power play 1 guy? Like, these are all things we don't really know. And if he's firmly pushing or fighting for that, he's obviously never going to leapfrog Luke. And so is that always going to be a thing as long as he's here? My main issue is that if you have a bad attitude and you kind of make a stink about it, that's cancerous. That's cancerous type stuff. And this organization can no longer afford to not carve out even the smallest amount of cancer. And so if this is really a thing, and again, this is speculation, I have no idea, but there's just been so many reports with similar things, even going back to not this season, the season before, I believe. Like, you gotta just carve it out. They need no distractions, none of these things lingering in the background. Like, they just need to lock in. Everyone needs to get on the same page. And if this is a thing that's kind of he's stuck on, then I think, beyond just playing, that's a problem. You got to go if that's the case. Mooseman says keeping Keefe is a big red flag as to Maida's competence. I definitely disagree wholeheartedly there, Mooseman. I understand a lot of people are down on Keefe, but I just don't understand at what point that people say, number one, obviously the GM thing. That is a very real thing. This is not excuses for Keefe. This is not the GM did not put Sheldon Keefe in the best position to win, period. He did not. Whether that's failing to bring in impact pieces at the deadline or hoping and wishing for goaltending when, during that 23-24 season when Lindy was still here. Fitz was the main issue. And then beyond that, you have to put a huge percentage of the blame on the players, period. The same core and a lot of the same guys that everyone scapegoated Lindy for, right? And at the time, listen, a lot of people wanted Lindy gone earlier in that season. I did not. At the time when they finally got rid of him, I thought it probably was time. But how many coaches are people going to allow this team to rip through before you realize that there's something else going on here beyond the coach? And I just think it's sort of lazy. And whatever else to just blame the coach every time. It's it's his fault. No, the GM had a lot to do with it. And at some point you have to say there's a lot of blood on the players' hands here. And we've talked about this forever as well. Does this core really need a shakeup or not? It seems like, again, it's lip service. Sonny's a poker player. He's not going to show his hand, but who knows? Maybe he really does look to make a big change this season after fully analyzing what's been going on here. But for me, it's crazy to just point the finger at Keefe and be like, it's his fault, because I will never believe that it is. Robbie's bench toss, I would trade both and bring up Casey for third or sign a cheap vet, give us the cap to get some offense. And listen, I think a lot of people may be shocked by that. But as I said a few minutes ago, I think that is a real possibility that both of them are dealt. That would free up a ton of money and now give Sonny some wiggle room to go improve that forward group. Whether it's a guy brought up from Utica on D, someone like Seamus Casey, very, very intrigued as to what's going to become of his career. And if it's with the Devils or somewhere else. But Seamus Casey, you have Edwards, Villain. You always have the option of, grabbing a serviceable veteran, similar to how Fitz did a couple years ago when he grabbed Dumoulin. There's definitely options, and options that would save a lot of cap dollars. Yo Holmes says, dump Hamilton, Siegenthaler, and Kovacevic. You're looking for a pretty sizable change on the blue line. Traveling Devil, my man, what's going on? He says, truth hurts, and I thank Dylan for speaking it. I'm kind of glad that he said it too. Just because, a lot of people, I think, live in like the blinders world where it's like, oh, that's not true. And, everything's sunshine and rainbows and people are making this stuff up. But it was very clear. And we talked about it throughout the season. There was a lot going on. And it was hard to ignore. Colton White as well. Yeah, Yo Holmes re-signed Nemo and White, and one spot open for Anton, referring to Salayev or Seamus. Salayev, I don't think, is going to see the NHL for at least a year or two. Once he comes over here, he's going to need to get a year of seasoning in Utica. My man, Bobby, thank you for the super. What's up, brother? I'm definitely in the minority, but I'll die on the sword. I want to keep Dougie, end of story. Dougie, power play 1, and Luke shouldn't be on power play. You know how I feel about Dougie, Bobby. I've defended him against people going back to last summer, if not earlier, when tons of people were on the trade Dougie wagon over the summer. But yeah, I just think I think he's gotten a fair shake from a lot of the fan base. It is what it is, But in terms of Luke just has to take a big step this year. I am hoping we see big strides in his game. A lot of people have been down on him, and I knew this was going to happen the moment he signed that contract. People just want to believe that as soon as someone's getting paid that kind of money, that it automatically means you're going to be playing like a $9 million defenseman. And unfortunately, that was never reality. These deals are signed with future value in mind. If Luke, in the next year or two really starts increasing his production, becomes a better player, doesn't get hurt, obviously, it would be a big part of all of it. There's a world where, again, in the new cap era, that Luke could be an $11.5 million defenseman in terms of, value of what he would get paid if he was on the open market. And that's what teams do. Just like when Jack signed the deal for $8 million, he was coming off a 50 some odd point season. He wasn't worth $8 million when we signed him, folks. I mean, you have to really look at how this all works. Jack Hughes did not deserve that $8 million when they gave it to him. But, and I will give credit where it's due, like I always say, this was a great kind of foresight gamble by Fitz. He said, we've seen enough here. We think this kid is going to be the guy we drafted him to be. The potential's there. He's shown little signs. Let's lock him in and give him the money. And what do you know? Jack became the guy that he is today, or whatever you want to call it, and worth well more than $8 million a year. And they're doing the same thing. They did the same thing with Luke. And I also believe that giving Luke that contract was the second to last step in getting all three Hughes brothers. I do think that played a big part of it. Locking Luke up long-term, keeping him here, keeping the family happy, the Hughes Corporation. And that was supposed to be the last step before getting Quinn, and we were fitzed. We were fitzed. Travelin says anyone that was butthurt needs to go. Completely agree. If there's any sour grapes, any complaints, whatever, you got to go. We cannot afford, the Devils cannot afford any nonsense. The culture must be righted, and bringing in a certain guy, I think, would really help that. I think you guys know who. Not Tasha. I'm in Toronto right now visiting the Hall of Fame for my birthday, and I saw and met Colby Armstrong. He was super nice. Oh, that's amazing, Tasha. You're on a family trip to Toronto. Happy birthday to you. Hope you enjoy it. Toronto is a fun city. I haven't been there in a while. I hope to make it back soon. Did you already go to the Hall, Tasha, or is it coming up? Tasha says 100% Fitz' his fault. Pro Bowl Canes really broke Fitzgerald and lived rent-free after 2023. Ethan, what's going on? Hey, Ace, I missed you. How have you been? Let's go Devils. I've been doing all right, Ethan. You know, getting ready for the long off season or living amidst the long off season, watching playoff hockey when I can, and waiting for September. But in the meantime, I will certainly enjoy my summer and everything that comes with it. Tasha says, I feel like somehow Fitz in hindsight was even worse. I mean, we talked about all of it while it was happening. How did Dillon get $4 million in a no trade clause? Because they needed a veteran leader, and at that stage of his career, I think he was looking for stability for his family. He had a young daughter at the time and just had another. He's another one that I would give a pass on just because it made sense. There was probably a bunch of teams trying to sign Dilly when he was a free agent. Pro Bowl, I want NJ to go after Nyes so bad if he's available. I think most people would love to see a guy like Nyes on this team. I just don't really believe that he is going to be available. Cole 649, Brady and Quinn getting recruited at Parker House tonight. Are they there again? I know I saw all the paparazzi shots from last night. Frank, if the coach was letting the GM influence the system he was trying to install, then the coach has no business calling out players for having no balls. That's a tough one, Frank. I understand what you're saying, and I get it. And to some extent, there's a little truth to it. But, like, what is he supposed to do? Is he supposed to quit? Like, if your boss comes to you at your job, right, and he was his boss, if your boss comes to you and says you have to do this, I mean, what are you going to be like? No, you know, it's unfortunate. And I'm very curious to know if we ever get any more clarity as to whether that there was any truth to that or not. But it's certainly not easy to resist that if that's what was happening. Tasha says, oh, Jack, Luke, and Quinn are all going to Minnesota. Sure, but they spend parts of their offseason in New Jersey. No, it's all funny, and I've seen Devils and Wild fans going back and forth on Twitter. I personally am not going to put too much stock into any of it, obviously. It's all just kind of funny things for people to talk about. But, you know, the Jersey Shore in the summer is certainly a fun place, especially when you're a young 20-something looking to hang out. It's definitely a good place. I'm not going to put too much stock into it and say, or Quinn or Brady or all these guys are going to come here. But the Brady ties to New Jersey are super strong, as are the Quinn ones. And it certainly would be beyond fascinating if the Devils were ever able to get either one of them. Never mind both. Some people are like, oh, get one of them and the other one would follow them. I mean, that would be insane. Completely insane if that ever happened. John NJ Devils 45. Everyone is living it up in Jersey. Let's go. Pro Bowl says I'd take Nyes over Brady Kachuk, to be honest. I'll definitely disagree with you there. Wise Discernment says Nyes trade value has got to be way less than Brady. It's probably not as far off as you think. I'd imagine you get a little bit more for Brady, but I think trading for either one of those type guys, anyone of that ilk, especially now in this new cap world where teams are clamoring to get guys with any sort of term left on their deal at a friendly number. And Nyes has a long time at around $8 million, I think, and Brady's like 8.5 or a little under 9. There'd be stiff competition, and I think teams would be offering up some fat packages for either one of them. David Chimes, I wish someone captured the Dano Domi hardcore whiskey, drinking, arm wrestling, and headbutt competitions. David referring to a legendary story from, it may have even been the 80s, either the late 80s or early 90s, of Kenny Danico and Ty Domi arm wrestling and subsequently headbutting each other at the China Club in New York City. I implore you to look up that story. I think the story's been told a couple times on podcasts over the years. It's certainly an interesting one. Natasha, sure, Dougie is more win now, but the only problem is that Nemo was our second overall pick. We fumbled him so bad. But the team has made tons of the team has made tons of fumbles. In my opinion, with drafting specifically. And in the end, like at this point, you can't be like, oh, he was our second overall pick and then misplay your hand now. I mean, I didn't like the pick at the time. I wanted to trade the pick. I wanted to trade that pick for win now help. It did not happen. Here we are. Hopefully it all works out one way or another, but certainly a guy like Logan Cooley in that spot would have been, at least at this moment in time, would have been the better play for the Devils, again, with hindsight. But here we are. What becomes of young Nemo? John NJDevils 45, they benched Dougie and tried to force him out. He's pissed off in that room. No media since December. Yeah, he hasn't talked to the media, which I do think is kind of lame. Like, I understand, like, not wanting to constantly keep talking about this stuff, and be part of these rumors and clickbaity kind of situations. But I do think to some extent, for that period of time is a little excessive. Like, just talk to the media. Tasha says the second we trade Nemo, he's going to take that next step and go nuclear. It's certainly possible. Travelin says we need a Stevens-type captain. If only it were that easy to find guys like that, Travelin. Honky Lips, Dillon is old school. We need more of that. You guys know how I feel about the old school era. John NJ Devil says, I love Nico. Just wish he was a little more vocal. Yo Josh 23, what I don't get is why it took benching Dougie for him to finally show up and start performing. It obviously pissed him off, and that's the intent of it. Now, there are the group of people that, don't believe, because they pressed Fitz about this at some point afterwards, and he said it was performance-based and had nothing to do with trying to trade him, which I don't necessarily believe either. I totally think it was related to them trying to trade him. But, not playing a game, being scratched and all of that, with the added stories we find out of them approaching him to waive his trade protection, definitely kind of gave him a little kick in the arse, as they say. And he performed very well after that. I think he may have had like an 8 to 10 game point streak immediately after that. Wild stuff. If only it were that easy to, wake a guy up. Like start scratching guys left and right. It's not going to work like that. But with Dougie, it seemed to have been, and it could have been totally coincidental. I don't think that that's the case either. But, Dougie has shown throughout his time here glimpses of offensive greatness. Anson says, I'm hearing this rumor of Nemo package to San Jose for the number 2 pick, Stenberg. I haven't seen any credible rumor about that whatsoever. And honestly, if the Devils did make a trade with San Jose to get the number 2 pick, I hope they're immediately flipping it for a win now piece. Sax Cats move Nemec and Hamilton to San Jose for Misa. Probably draft picks going each way, but Misa, 19 years old, left wing center. San Jose already has Celebrini, Smith, and Eklund. It certainly seems like they could be a good trade partner fit. But will Dougie agree to go there? Devils are beastly. Who would you want to target if Sonny trades the 12th? Could be packaged or straight up. Devils are beastly. Are you new? I feel like I've seen your name before. The guy to target. As I started talking about over 2 years ago and was flamed mercilessly for it at the time. But now more people have come around. I am calling the Ottawa Senators and offering that pick plus whatever else they need to get Brady Tkachuk to New Jersey. That is the move to make. Tasha says, definitely feel like we inevitably have that slump next year. Keefe is getting the boot. I guess, what is your definition of slump? Like, if it's a horrible long one, but if it's like a little, they lost 4 in a row, 3 in a row, I don't know that would be enough to do it. I do think he's going to be on somewhat of a short leash, but hopefully it never comes to that this team just kind of comes out for opening night and never looks back. Vince says, I'm late to this. What did Dilly say? Do I have the link here? No, I don't have it handy. He basically said there was elephants in the room, a lot of distractions. Look up the interview. Just put in Brenden Dillon. It'll be one of the newest videos on YouTube. But he just was very open and honest about the distractions for the team this year and that, it wasn't great. Meaty Clacker says, if we're not changing the core, then what exactly are we changing under Sonny Maeda? Well, if the core stays intact, you're talking about probably a somewhat new look defense and version 6.0 of a bottom 6 revamp at a minimum. Ritter Engine says Nico needs the C taken away if he can't get the childish BS under control. I have to disagree with that, Ritter Engine. I don't think any one guy can control all of this. It's a lot. It has to be. It comes from above. The culture needs to be set in place where people aren't even going to make these types of fusses if this is in fact what's happening. Again, beyond what Dilly said, there is a lot of still speculation and kind of reading between the lines, but Nico can't fix all of this on his own. This is a team, a grander team issue, and it's the culture. The culture needs to be fixed, and Sonny has to do what he can to get it there. Brandon says we couldn't score goals anyway. Why not try Nemec on power play 1? It's just never going to happen with Luke here, I don't think. At least not long term. Like, if the power play's cold or something, in a world where Dougie's not here, obviously, if the power play is underperforming for a large stretch, I could see them giving Nemo the chance. But, he's always going to be, in regards to power play time, he's definitely going to be second fiddle to Luke. Unless it's just, I'm just trying to think about this. There is obviously other dynamics at play here. It would have to be like Luke would have to be playing terrible, in my opinion. Keep force feeding Luke on power play 1 was so bad. Yeah, it would have to be a huge disparity, I think, for Nemo to truly leapfrog him. Yo, Holmes says Lindy should have never been fired. Lindy was scapegoated because Fitz couldn't fire himself. Tasha, Sonny's not, they're not trading Luke to get Quinn. Come on. Michael S. Nico as captain should have weeded this crap out. We need a Brady Kachuk type player as a first mate. Nico's handoff, led by example, has not worked, and he sure has not changed his style. I think a guy like Brady instantly changes everything. And it might sound crazy to some of you, but I that is how much I believe in what he would bring to the locker room. Never mind what he brings to the on ice play. And if you've ever watched him play, you know what kind of player he is. Let's see what else we got here. When do you think you'll start pumping out the pre-draft videos? We still got a lot of time. Probably after the playoffs. Yeah, sometime after the Cup Finals. Tasha said, but what was Dilly specifically referencing about, like, who should play with who? That one, I don't know. I just imagine it's just overall guys maybe unhappy with where they were slotted in the lineup. Maybe third line guys that thought they should be second line or whatever it was. I don't know if that probably could have applied to several guys, I'd imagine. John T says, tear it down. Devils are beastly. Luke set the franchise record for fastest D-man to 100 points. He has a higher points per game than Niedermeyer and is likely to surpass Niedermeyer for most points by D-man in franchise history on this contract. Let me just be very clear about something. It would be a miracle if overall Luke Hughes became half the player of Scott Niedermeyer. And that's not a knock on Luke Hughes. That's just how much of a regard I have for Scott Niedermeyer in his career. An all-time great. If Luke is anywhere near that, and again, I'm not going to look at the points. That's all cutesy little stats. They don't have it broken down on here. Let me see something. But that is encouraging. But there's way more to a story than just that. Let's see. Does this have this? Doesn't have this either. Oh, this is so annoying. I'm going to have to do this in my head. 90, 110, 140, 75. Bear with me. I'm trying to do some mental math. Yeah, so he had about 500 or so points as a Devil, I guess. I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to have like 60. He's not going to do it on this contract, I don't think. It'll be close. But yeah, that's nothing to sneeze at, but it also doesn't tell the full story. Bobby, thank you for the super. You know you're my boy. Ace Brady is good, but what this team needs is Robo. Jack can't be the only one putting up goals. We need more than one 90-point guy. Agreed, you need more than one, but Robertson is a pipe dream, my guy. He's going to get 14 million bucks. It's just not happening. I would love him too. And earlier on in the season where people were talking about him, I wasn't as sold on him, but throughout the season, it looked like he was playing with a chip on his shoulder, especially after the Olympics. I think that really fueled him even more, that he was left off the team, and he also played really well in the playoffs. And so I would love Robertson. I just can't see it. The money's going to be mega. It's going to be mega. Brady still has 2 years left on his deal at under $9 million bucks. Yo, Holmes, please never compare Luke to Scott Niedermayer again. Thank you. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, listen, let's pump the brakes, guys. The stat about, points per game and, career points, that's all good and fine. But Scott Niedermayer is beyond legendary. What's going on, Mechanicsville? How are you? I went to the hall today, and that's where I saw Army. Nice. Great spot. David Chimes says, I bet Luke has a breakout star-level season next year. I will be all over the haters. Oh, man. I think everyone's hoping for that big breakout from Luke. And I know, David, you certainly will be coming for some necks if and when that happens. Art W. just watched the video from Long Branch. Yeah, Jersey Shore is where you want to be. Not a bad place, especially in the summer. Dakota, I don't know how true this is or not, but recently I've been seeing rumors the Wild tried to trade for Luke around the deadline. There was a report from, I forget, someone out of Minnesota that had mentioned that Billy G did in fact try to get Luke, which, why wouldn't you, right? If that's out there, then he would have 2/3 of the Hughes brothers and potentially be in the driver's seat to one day get Jack and have all three brothers. But the Devils did not, bite on that attempt, obviously, as they're still trying to get the third Hughes brother at some point in time. And we'll see if that ever comes to fruition. I fully anticipate Quinn signing at least a few-year deal to stay with the Wild. I've always thought that was going to happen from the beginning. Dun, 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 dun. Skin in the comments here. Shout out to everybody for coming out. Appreciate you guys. You guys are very chatty. John T, if the core stays intact, the Devils will miss the playoffs again and again and again. I have to disagree with that, John. I do believe that even with the team as is, if Jack is healthy for most of the year and the playoff, leading up to the playoffs, I think they are a playoff team. Now, do I think they could go far? It would take a lot of luck. I don't love the chances of that happening, but I do think that this team can pretty easily be a playoff team if they stay mostly healthy. But I would like to see some changes if you're trying to be a serious contender. I do think we've seen a good sample size here, and there are some deficiencies in this group as a whole. Devils are beastly, not new, and obvious Brady would be the dream target. He's the only one I'd be willing to move off Nemo for, but doubtful he gets moved, so who else would you want for the 12th? Any legitimate top six forward, that preferably with some nastiness, but I think the top six winger is the spot that you really would like to address if you're going to trade that pick. That would be, no legitimate top six winger since Toffoli was dealt, and it's been the biggest need. BMP, I like the Brenden Dillon interview. Hopefully Sonny can change the culture and bring in some winning pieces. Tasha, also Nico getting involved. He isn't the coach. He can't give someone power play time. Plus, sometimes getting involved can make it worse and sever the locker room even more. I do think some captains are probably more skilled at this whole type of thing, but there's a lot that goes on here. This is like, you know, personal dynamics and relationships amongst players, and you know, I can't expect a guy like Nico to just wave a magic wand and all of a sudden everything's fine. It's a lot. Brandon says, I never wear jerseys or order them or anything, but if we got Brady, I would order a Brady jersey instantly. I'd imagine there'd be a lot of people doing the same. David Chimes' team got worse after Lindy got fired in 23-24. Another of many forms of evidence that Fitz messed up the team culture. Oh, that I've been convinced of for years. Justin Smith says the only thing this team has been good at the last 5 years is making excuses. It's been a tumultuous path. Tasha says that'd be my dream acquisition. 1A Tage Thompson, 1B Jason Robertson. I don't think Tage is going anywhere whatsoever. Jason Robertson, I think Dallas finds a way to keep him, but if not, someone is going to pay him handsomely. He is going to get a fat contract. Brett, Nico, and Brad should be 90-point guys, but they just aren't. With all the defensive responsibilities that Nico gets, he shouldn't have to be a 90-point guy for this team to be successful or for his season to be considered a success on a personal level. Obviously, the more points, the better. But if Brat is playing with Jack regularly, which they probably, I'd imagine, will be, yeah, he's got to be a point per game guy or damn near it. Bobby says, smash that like. Thank you, Bobby. Smash the like. Smash the like. David, Dallas is close enough in terms of cap that they are near 100% likely to extend Robo. If they do not, we're not a top contender given our current cap. Odds are too long to bother dreaming. That's where I'm at, David. Like, it's not even worth talking about. It's just not going to happen. Brandon, we 100% need to shake up the core. This core has won absolutely nothing yet. Now, I started talking about this a long time ago too. Is it time for the core to get a shakeup? And I put out the video last summer about the Last Dance, how I thought if this team underperformed in this season, it would be the last time we saw them as a group ever again. Now, there is a world where I do believe this core could win with the right other pieces added, but it's going to be difficult given the team's cap space and what these guys make. You know, if somehow let's just play hypothetical pipe dreams, right? And it probably is a pipe dream, but let's just dream for a minute. In some world where the Devils and Sonny Maeda found a way to keep the core guys here, and then you sprinkle Brady Tkachuk on top of them, guess what, guys? We now have a core 5 instead of a core 4, and I would love that team's chances. The core 4 currently here, plus a guy like Brady Tkachuk, or even just plus another top 6 winger, but you know, Brady is the preference, but plus a top 6 winger, I think that is a big difference. But the core 4 as is, without another legitimate top 6 piece added, I think we've seen the ceiling for them. Jeremy Proper, how are we feeling about an offer sheet for Nemec and do it to someone else? I do think where the expected salary for Nemo, if someone was to offer sheet him, I think the Devils would get a first, a second, and a third, which depending, you know, it depends on what team that comes from, right? Like a first, second, and a third, it's okay, but I think you could probably do better putting Nemo in a package. But a first, a second, and a third, like, is that exciting of a return? It's certainly not to me. Now, if that was to happen, hopefully those would be assets the Devils flip for win now pieces. David Chimes, if you could interview any Devil legend on your show, who would you pick? Oof. There's so many. There's so many, David. I hope over the course of my lifetime, and hopefully more short-term than long-term, I am hoping to interview all of the Devils legends one at a time. When there's a will, there's a way. Would love all of them. John T, why does a team need more than one 90-point player? That's ridiculous. Canes have nobody over 90. Vegas and Habs have one. Yeah, I don't think it's a prerequisite to winning, but obviously if you have multiple guys in that range, you'd like to say you have a better chance of contending, but it's definitely not a requirement. Beachmaster, what did Dillon say? Go watch the video. He basically said there's a lot of distractions, elephants in the room, blah, 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 drama. Essentially confirming what many of us have speculated for a long time. Paha 273 2736. Vegas had no problem signing Hart. Why didn't we consider McLeod? If we're being real about it, I just think it was a PR nightmare that the team just did not think the juice was worth the squeeze. Obviously, Hart got his deal in Vegas. Goaltenders are harder to come by than, bottom six guys. And so Vegas was willing to deal with the backlash. Now, depending on who you ask, the level of backlash is probably viewed as different from different people. But I don't think the Devils wanted any part of the subsequent things that would have happened had they brought McLeod back. Tasha, Fitz was a disease, though. If this season goes poorly and there's no success, then I say shake up the core. I mean, this would have to be the final straw, you would imagine. I mean, what are we talking about? How many years can you possibly keep watching the same movie? It's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I mean, you would have to believe that this would be the very last straw. Khaki, Quinn has got to stay here in Mini. I just bought myself a Hughes Wild jersey for my 74th birthday. Wow, happy birthday to you whenever it was. A Quinn Hughes Wild jersey is definitely a great one to buy. What do you have any other jerseys, Khaki? You have a lot of guys, I think, that are worthy of jerseys. Obviously, Boldy and Faber are two of my other American heroes. John T, this core is soft. How many times do you need to see it? I've talked about it in depth over the past several years. I firmly agree that the team has been too easy to play against for a very long time, and they need a little bit more of that snarl. Brady brings the snarl in spades. Would love to see it. JJ Dog, they definitely need to shake up the core, in my opinion. This core isn't a cup-winning one. As is, I agree with you. But what do you think, J-Dog, if we added a legitimate top six forward to the current core? Would you like their chances a lot more then? I certainly would. Vecna Fitzgerald, what's going on? Morkel Jackson, if we utilize Meyer correctly and give him power play quarterback time, how many points would we expect? I mean, I think 60 is the benchmark. If he got power play one time regularly, I think you're looking at around 60 points from Timo Meyer, which I think is more than fine given all the other things he can do. And back to the Brady thing, I think in a world where the Devils got a guy like Brady Tkachuk who plays that snarl kind of nasty game, I think that activates a guy like Timo to some extent. It kind of brings that dog out of him a little bit more. Look no further, folks, than that 7-game series against the Rangers. Timo didn't register a single point, but his fingerprints were all over the series. He was an agitator, getting in people's faces, bumping into Shesterkin, throwing him off his game. Like, he was a factor in the series without scoring a point. I would love to see that kind of angry version of Timo for the entire regular season. Bobby says Nemo is going to ask for $9 million like Luke, and rightfully so. If Luke gets $9 million, Nemo certainly should. I could totally see the argument, but I also understand that that's just never going to happen. Tasha says the Dillon stuff isn't surprising at all. Connor Brown basically said all the same stuff earlier. Brett, who is most likely to be moved in the D-core? At this point, I'm going to have to say Nemo. Given all the reports we've heard, whether they're false or true, whatever it is, but a lot of smoke around Nemo. The money could be a sticking point, and so I'm going to have to go with him as the most likely. But there's certainly some other possibilities for Sonny to explore as well. Rendich, too. I keep the hope alive for Quinn in New Jersey, but my mind knows it's highly likely he's re-upping with Minnesota, sadly. I've said that I thought that was going to happen from the day of his first press conference in Minnesota when he talked so glowingly about Billy G and said he sacked up and he did what he had to do to get me and he wanted me here. Had a pretty solid regular season. They made it to the second round. Obviously, that's not the conference finals, the cup finals, but they have a pretty damn good team in place. And if you're Quinn Hughes, how could you not want to be part of a team that has a chance to really compete? They have a chance to compete. They ran into a very good Colorado team and they came up short. But I think he is going to stay there. Tasha says probably Nemec because he has no trade protection. Chris, Bratt year-over-year shooting percentage is worrisome. Have to think some of it has to do with Fitz wanting them to play slow. It did seem like Bratter just went through phases, stretches where it was just like, damn, this guy can't buy one. Taj says Timo was great in the Kane series too. Maybe not ideal, but super agitating. Took out Anderson and Kane's fans hated him. Yeah, he's a menace. He is a menace. And we need the nasty version of Timo as often as possible. JJ Dog says, I feel like we need to lose Jack or Brad if we want to win a cup. JJ, let's be real, my guy. They are never trading Jack Hughes. Never. And they shouldn't. I think next season you're going to see a big year from Jack, and I think he matured a lot and learned a ton, more than I've ever could have imagined during his stint in Milan for the Olympics. I think he really grew up over that trip, and I think next year you're going to see a new level of Jack Hughes unlocked. Dirty 13-13 Bird, I'm really sad about the Buffalo Sabres getting eliminated. I was hoping Lindy and Tage would advance, but they couldn't get it done. Salvatore says, would love for you to interview Needs and get his thoughts on adding a brother to the locker room and then what it would mean to add a second, both good and bad. I mean, that's obviously a very good topic for Scott Niedermayer to talk about, given that he did leave New Jersey to go to Anaheim to play with his brother. I saw some of them. I've got a lot going on in my personal life, running around, watching what I can. I always watch the highlights and stuff, but to sit down and watch a whole game from start to finish has been a tough challenge in the last couple of weeks. Rendich, too, the year Bratt hit 30 goals, Jack and Bratt were opposite sides in the power play and would hit the cross ice one-timer for a handful of goals that we did not see this year for whatever reason. So many things just went wrong this year. And it's a long off season. You know how the NHL draft is in Buffalo this year? Where was it last year? I believe it was in LA. If I'm not mistaken. I think the draft was in LA last year. Rendich, also Jack is not injured heading into the offseason. So on top of the other reasons you stated, should be a huge year this season. Yeah, hopefully a lot of people have wanted to see the beefier version of Jack Hughes. I'm sure he will have a much better offseason kind of training schedule than he has been able to have in the past while he was rehabbing the shoulder. Or to be healthy in the offseason is big, very big. Metalander, there's a league-wide shortage of good centers. Nico is average, but would probably bring a big return. Only problem is we would need to find a center to replace. Not easy. Agree that centers are always at a premium, and every team would love an additional center. You got to give Nico more credit than average, Metalander. Come on. He's definitely above average. Definitely above average. And yeah, replacing him is nearly impossible. You're not getting another center at his level, whether it's in a trade or free agency. You're simply not. And so in some world where Nico is traded, you're certainly getting a downgrade at the center position. How do you feel about Jack Eichel getting 2 goals last night? Eichel's an American hero and will forever be one. I always liked Eichel from when he was younger with Buffalo. Always rooted for him. And to see him win that gold medal, it was great stuff. Great stuff. Eichel had 1 goal last night. Goal and an assist. He had 2 points. I was about to say, did I forget the second goal? Yeah, he had a goal and an assist for 2 points. How I got here, Jeremy Proper. Biggest Uncle Lou ever did was not getting robbed. We left 1, if not 2 more cups on the table. There were rumors. I believe the GM of Anaheim at the time was Brian Burke. I do believe that Lou tried to get Rob Niedermayer in anticipation of this kind of event happening, and Brian Burke refused to trade him to the Devils because Brian Burke probably knew having Rob Niedermayer was the key to landing Scott. And Devils didn't get him, and what do you know? Niedermayer leaves to go to Anaheim. James says Jack needs to bulk up this offseason. I think Jack with like another 10 pounds would be an even more improved version. Not Tasha on the Pat McAfee show. Jack said he was working out a lot. I saw a couple clips from that. I want to watch the whole thing. His first interview right after the Olympics on Pat McAfee. If you haven't seen it, is one of my favorite Devils interviews of all time. Phenomenal stuff. Dirty 13 Bird. If the Vegas Golden Knights get past the Avalanche, who would you want them to face, Montreal or Carolina? Clearly the Canadians. Bobby, I'm going to say August is when they reveal the New Jersey. Ace, you have inside access. Find out. I really don't have inside access really at all. August is kind of sensible. You know, gives them some time before the season to try to push some sales. I'm very intrigued. You guys know I'm a merchandise kind of guy, and we've talked about the different jerseys and things forever. I would love to see the black starter. Can't even find it right now. My closet's a disaster, but you know, I want a black jersey, and the old school starter is a great one. And I'd also love to see kind of an inverted Stadium Series jersey would be phenomenal. JJ Dog, Nico is the heart and soul of the team. If he walks, well, it's not, he wouldn't be walking. He'd be getting traded. He'll be difficult to replace. Who would you replace him with other than Brady? You're not in a world where they lose Nico. He's not being replaced. You're just trying to figure out how to move on into the future without him, but he's not going to be replaced. He is a very good two-way center that does everything. So you're not getting another guy like that. In a world where he's traded, your center position as a whole is definitely getting a sizable downgrade. Now, that's not to say that in some world with a series of moves that the team couldn't be better off overall going forward, but I do think it is very unlikely. It is very unlikely. Yeah, Mitch Marner's a beast. Man, if they win the cup, I think Marner would have a very good chance at the Conn Smythe, and I think that will send Maple Leafs fans probably into a downward spiral. Talking about a true playoff performer. Metalander, I appreciate Megan Duggan being USA gold medal in 2018, but our development is abysmal. Sonny did a good job moving her without a discrimination issue or pushback from Blitzer. It may not have had anything to do with it, honestly. Maybe she was the top candidate for that PWHL general manager job. I don't know. We'll never know the real story behind it. But either way, it's a good opportunity for her. She took it, and it gives Sonny the potential to bring in another one of his people for a pivotal role. Director of player development, not a small job whatsoever. James, maybe the New Jersey, they'll go back to some sort of retro look. Are you talking about green? I'm sorry, guys. I know a lot of you disagree with me, but I'm like totally over the green. There was a lot of it. I really do. And maybe it's somewhat biased from when I was a kid, but I always liked that starter black jersey and always thought that an alternate or third jersey should be the black one. And when we didn't get it for all those years, when they had the heritage, was the white with the green, and there was the stadium series and the retro where it was the red with the green. Like, it just seemed like there was years of that, and I was over it. Like, we've seen it, been there, done that, embraced the black jerseys, because the black jerseys are sharp. Dirty 13 Bird, how do you feel about the Buffalo Sabres going to the Cup again next year? Do you think the Devils have it more or the Sabres? I mean, as it stands right now, I would say the Sabres, but that could all change depending on how the offseason goes. I do think, assuming the Sabres keep Tuck, who had a terrible playoff round against the Canadiens, I think that they'll be a pretty decent team for a while. But with a couple of the right moves and with overall health, I think the Devils, call me crazy, but they could be dangerous next year. Tasha says it's hard to differentiate what's on development and what's on drafting. Are you talking about in terms of the failures of the past? I think more of it is probably just picking the wrong guy in the draft. And then, for some of them, they probably never even reached their full potential, even if it was well below their draft position. But when you look at some of the complete draft misses, and then you look at the development side, like, who have the Devils drafted in recent times that kind of went through Utica, we're in a couple training camps, and then you're like, bang, now they made the jump and they're on the NHL team. Like, you really look back and you're like, it's just not happening. I guess the most recent example would be, I'm trying to think, Haminaho. I mean, Haminaho would be one. I'm trying to think on D. Yeah, I mean, we went with veteran free agents for the most part, so we really haven't developed. I guess Nemo, right, would be another guy that was, bounced around a little bit. Chris 2766 Marty implied on NHL radio a few weeks ago it was going to be a black version of the Stadium Series. I missed that. Is there a video of this? Chris, do you remember when this was? I wasn't aware of this. I would love to see that. I would love to check that interview out. But a black version of the Stadium Series, I'd be thrilled. Tasha says if they do more green, I'm going to be so mad. Yeah, I'm over it. I'm over the green. Like, we had it for a while, maybe down the road again, but I think the next one should be black. Dirty 1313 Bird, do you know when your next live stream is going to be after today? I do not. I will be popping up with these, and some regular videos as well throughout the offseason. I don't have the next one scheduled, but I imagine it wouldn't be too long. But subscribe and put those notifications on, and you'll know when it's about to go down. And I typically post it on X the day of at some point as well, and Instagram. You can follow me on all those things. Dirty 13 Bird, do you think the Pittsburgh Penguins should start all over, like get rid of Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and start over with younger guys? That's never going to happen. They're two legends of the game. Sidney Crosby, one of the greatest players of all time, and I do think Malkin will get a contract, and he'll stay in Pittsburgh. And I think it's pretty clear at this point Crosby's never leaving the Pens, and I don't think Malkin is either. They're both going to be lifers. Richie, late to the party. I had to subject myself to a chuck up 3 and play no D NBA. Going to catch it, but NHL has too many predominantly black jerseys. Put a smidge of green in the new ones. I'm over the green, Richie. I am. It's just we had it for so long. Tasha says, Lenny, before him, we didn't have any prospects and credit there. I think they actually developed Lenny well. Yeah, that was the most recent example that came to mind. I'm trying to think of other forwards. I mean, there really hasn't been much. And I'm curious to see if any of the defensemen, whether it's a Casey, Edwards, if either one of them ever become an NHL regular with the Devils. Dawes, another interesting one. And I think Dawes could be a legitimate NHL starter, but his path to the league was blocked by, the Markey Allen tandem. I do think heading into from last summer heading into the season, this season that's not over yet, the 25-26 season, I do think they probably thought it was going to be a Markey Dawes tandem because no one anticipated Jake Allen signing that team-friendly deal. And when he worked with Fitz to sign that, I don't think anyone saw that coming, and that kind of put Dawes in a bad spot. Okay, Twist, a black, white, and green jersey. I'm not a big green guy, and that's pretty funny saying, that I'm saying that while wearing a Ducks D5. Shout out to everyone who knows what this is. I spilled crap on here. The Ducks D5 is a classic. What a movie. I might have to fire those up with the nephews soon. How do you feel about San Jose Sharks? Are you a fan of the Sharks at all? I think they definitely have a beautiful... No, I'm not a fan of the Sharks. I enjoy watching them play. An exciting young team, for sure. Macklin Celebrini, how can you not love that kid? Selected Boy, what's up? Devils folks, and Brenden Dillon was right about the locker room. It's fractured. Or I don't know if I'm going to call it fractured. I just think they went through some drama last year. Hopefully there's no lingering things heading into next season. And if there are, Sonny has to figure out how to alleviate all of it. Get rid of all of it. No drama, no drama. Chris, it was on Mick Kern's show. Mick asked if he had a role in the new design, and he said something like, no, but if you saw our Stadium Series jersey, it's going to be similar. Interesting. Mick Kern, was this on the radio? Yeah, he's a Sirius XM guy. Bobby, all right, Ace, let's hear them. What are your way too early predictions? Oh, Bobby, it's beyond way too early. It's way, 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 way too early. But I will wait to see how the summer unfolds. And I'm sure all of those types of things will be coming out in, I don't know, probably sometime in August. I will say, I guess just the one that I don't think many people will be shocked by in terms of a prediction as of today. I'm going to predict that the Devils make the playoffs for sure. We'll start with that. But I want to see what else happens this summer with the draft and free agency, any trades and all that stuff. And then I will, as we get through the summer, later in the summer, put out some more fine-tuned prediction type stuff. Thank God we didn't get John Shaka. I mean, listen, he may do a good job. A lot of people were kind of thumbing their nose at the name, and it wasn't one that was at the top of my wish list, but he may do a good job there. I don't know. I still do believe that Toronto is cursed, and it's going to be a hard thing for him to really right that ship. And you have the news of Austin Matthews being unhappy and all these other things. We'll see. Sirius XM radio. Okay. Richie, McCarr has to be pretty badly injured to miss the first two. Anyone know his status for game 3? I do not, but I do agree. Especially in the conference finals, hockey players are known warriors, play through injury regularly. If McCarr could go, he would be. He must be very badly hurt. Tasha, I'm not going to prediction after last year's Eastern Conference Finals or bust fiasco. And a fiasco it was. I was optimistic. Dirty 13 Bird says, no offense, Ace, but I'd rather see the Buffalo Sabres make the Stanley Cup than the Devils. That's unfortunate. Brett says, wild card or division spot? Top 3 in the Metro. Top 3 in the Metro. Let's go. Metalander says, Shaka says he's listening to offers on anyone except number 34. I mean, that could also be, a posturing move. And I think at some point, I just can't see Austin Matthews being a Maple Leaf lifer. I could be wrong. Tightest dream. There are too many things that could happen. A big move will be made that is certain. Dougie is gone in July. We can either get closure or distraction on the infinity gauntlet of Hughes. I don't know. Well, I mean, I guess if you're considering a big move, I guess do you consider trading Nemo a big move too? I just don't see any world where one of Dougie or Nemo is not traded. And again, I said this earlier in the show here. I do think there's at least a decent chance that they're both traded to free up some cap space, and you fill in the back end with cheaper options. Now, could that be a dangerous play? Absolutely. But this is what Sonny gets paid the big bucks for. Rendich, too, very excited for the summer of Sonny. You have probably talked about it for sure, but we have to be moving a right D at minimum. Yeah, and other moves possible. I just talked about it. One of Dougie or Nemo must go, and there is a world, I think, where both go. Jay Snow, what's up? I'm putting zero expectations on the Devils next year. I get it. It's been a rough go. A lot of, I'm not going to say empty promises, but just expectations that seem to be perennially missed. The mark has been missed, and that's part of sports, right? But it has been a painful, mostly painful 15 years for this franchise, and it's rough. I feel bad for the young kids. Or not even young kids, just newer fans who only know mostly pain and misery. Collecting the Swiss and the Hughes like Infinity Stones. 2 7th-place finishes the past 3 years. Brutal. Bobby, I, for one, am surprised the Preds haven't announced Fitz. I don't think he's going to get it. I feel like if they were going to give it to him, it would have already happened. I think it was Elliot Friedman on 32 Thoughts had mentioned that they wanted to take their time with it and they weren't in a hurry, that they really wanted to get it right. And so I'd imagine Fitz probably already interviewed for that. And you would think if they were floored or blown away by whatever Fitz had to say, they would have given him the job already. Now, that doesn't rule out that they give it to him at some point down the line, but I think that would be a bit shocking to me, I think, at this point, if he got it. I feel like he would have already got it, but we'll see. Tightest dream, I think Bratter is getting moved. I think he's obviously one of the more valuable trade chips that you have, and would be valuable to a lot of other teams. Something to keep an eye on. Samuel, is Casey in the team's plans at all? I'm super curious. If he's not, then they should just trade him. I don't even know. With all the injuries he had last year, I don't know what his value would be as of today. But I still think he has promise. A lot of people have already written him off, which I think is crazy. He's still, how old is he? He's still very young. Yeah, he's 22. Obviously, the size, being a little undersized, is not ideal, but there's been plenty of guys that have figured it out. Metalander, Billy G was asked in his postseason presser who was untouchable. His answer was no one. You damn right his answer was no one. Billy G is from the Lou Lamoriello school. Billy is a direct branch off the Lou Lamoriello tree, and it is about the crest on the front of the jersey, and in this case, the crest of D5 Ducks, not the name on the back. And Billy is going to do whatever he can to improve his team. That's what you want your GM to do. Jay Snow, I don't like that the locker room's a complete mess and keeps coming back. It'll be all right, Snow. Let's see what Sonny does. Sonny. Selected Boy says, thanks a lot, Fitzgerald. You screwed up big time. Rendich, too. Hot take, maybe, but if Jack plays 70-plus games and is healthy in April/May, we should be at minimum a second-round team. I don't think that's that hot of a take. To win a playoff round, it's so sad that, like, this is the bar now, if I'm being real. Like, the expectations should be so much higher. Renditch, remember Bratt was billed as a Sonny pick prior to the hiring. On top of the trade protection, I view a Bratt trade at extremely low odds. I don't know that that has anything to do with it. I'm not anticipating or expecting Sonny to trade a core piece, but I don't think he's the type of guy who would be like, oh, I was involved in drafting this guy, so I'm not going to trade him. I don't think Sonny's that type of guy at all. I think he's a very kind of calculated. He already told it. He's an analytical guy who looks at the data, looks at the numbers, and he said he wants to instill a process that is repeatable. And if there is a potential deal to be made that he feels improves the team, I think he will do it, despite having been here when Browder was drafted. Bobby says, get rid of Casey. He has no future on the team. We don't need a 150-pound, 5'10" defenseman. I get the concern about the size, obviously. He's definitely more than 150, but, point taken. Tasha says, crest on the jersey has to probably be my favorite quote of all time. It's a great one, Tasha. It's one of my favorites, and it just explains everything. That is a winning philosophy summed up in a sentence. It really is just like it's an amazing Lou anecdote. Jay Snow says Keith's supposed to get the locker room in order. I'll give him a little blame there, but there's a lot to overcome, and I do blame it more so on Fitz and the culture that he fostered during his time here. And he even admitted it was a country club 2 years ago, I think it was. Titus Dream 12, if Billy G can't secure that extension with Quinn, it's going to be an annoying year. Oh, well, it'll be talked about every other day. It will be exhausting. I for that sake, I just hope it's done and over with so people could stop talking about it. I think it happens this summer. Do you have the list for the 2026 NHL draft? What do you mean, do I have the list? Jay Snow, you think Lou would keep a coach who couldn't control the boys? I also think it was a different league than Snow, where I do think the players as a group back then would have kept those things in check. The guys I always talk about, the Danos, the Stevens, the Bobby Holiks, the McKays of the world, the Claude Lemieux, like, this stuff wouldn't have happened because we had so many veteran leaders. This group only has a few of them, in my opinion, and they were all brought in from the outside after the fact. I talked about that earlier in the show as well, that these young guys were not raised properly in the league by these proven veterans who have been around and showed these guys how to be pros and kind of keep everything in order. Dirty 13 Bird, when the Devils schedule comes out, will you have a video talking all about it? Absolutely. Absolutely. Jay Snow, watching these playoff games, it's insane how bad the Devils are at D-zone exits. Teams always have us looking like we're on PKs. Yeah, another. If the defense gets changed up, a guy that could make nice stretch passes and get us out of the zone a little cleaner would definitely help. But I'm curious to see what it looks like at the start of the season next year in terms of who's here. Richie, it's a great quote, but Lou was inspired by Joe Paterno at Penn State, who alluded to that back in the 70s, 90s. The kids play football for Penn State, not the name on their back. Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone thought Lou invented it, but he kind of made his own little adaptation of it. Snow, I think the D-corps needs a big shakeup. The lack of puck moving is horrible, and I think you're going to see it. Titus, if the Stars want to move Jason Robertson, I think you move Bratt plus the 12th to get it done. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent. No one's going to give that type of if they try to trade his rights or whatever, no one's going to trade that type of package for it. And then you're going to have to pay him 13 or 14 million bucks. I hate to break your heart, but Jason Robertson is not happening. Bobby, we should bring back Holik as a coach to teach these guys how to be tough. I would love guys like that to have some role in the organization that directly works with the players, whether that's like a skills coach of some kind, an off-ice kind of conditioning coach, whatever it may be. I would love to see guys like Holik brought around the team. Jay Snow, Dylan's a vet guy. It must have been a super toxic locker room if he went out and aired out. I don't know about super toxic, but it's just things that you don't, if you're a veteran guy in the twilight of your career trying to win a cup, this is all stuff that you're like, what the hell are we doing here? And I'm sure, again, that he's talked about it with some of the guys during these events. Rendich, imagine we still had Severson with the cap going up with that contract. People gave him away way too much flack. He is a great D-man in the league. He was a guy that I talked about with my buddies years ago that I said another guy that I said will be missed when he's gone. He made great stretch passes, great vision. Yeah, was he on the other team's highlight reel sometimes? Sure. It happens to everybody. No one's perfect, but he was a guy that I said we will miss him when he's gone, and the Devils certainly did miss him when he moved on. Yeah, Severson had nice stretch passes. Robo was a RFA, not a UFA. Okay, but either way, it's not happening. He's gonna stay in Dallas, and he's gonna get paid. Jay Snow, Dillon, Siegs, Kobe, Pesci bring no puck moving. I think there's a good chance. Well, Pesci's not going to go anywhere, and I don't think Kovacevic is either. Dillon or Siegs, I could see as a possibility. I would hate to see Dillon moved just because I do value his just veteran leadership and his snarl. Like, even towards the end of his career, he's still like our nastiest guy that you see wears his heart on his sleeve. And you need guys like that, especially in the playoffs. I would certainly be disappointed if they moved on from him. Tasha says Brad and picks for Robo would not be worth it, in my opinion, since Brad is on an all-world deal and you have to pay Robo double that. Not double, but he would make a lot more. For sure. Robertson's not happening. I don't like talking about things that are totally ridiculous. While I've talked about the Brady thing a lot, there's certainly some smoke there. And with this past season, I think the smoke has intensified. Way better chance of that happening than Robertson. I'll put a Robertson deal happening at 0.00001%, and Brady might be like 5%, 3%. Titus, the locker room issue stemmed from Luke, in my opinion. Dude missed time and got the red carpet treatment. I hope that was not Keith, because in a room where performing dictates opportunities. Nemo probably played a part in that, but then he said other guys, he kind of made it seem like other guys were unhappy, which is going to happen no matter what, right? This is pro sports. No matter what, there's always going to be some guys that want a bigger role, a bigger opportunity or whatever, but it shouldn't become an issue. That's just kind of the natural competitive landscape of professional athletes. Friedman said the Luke contract ruffled some feathers within the organization. Yeah, it was a staggering number to many. I wasn't surprised by it and predicted pretty much that number beforehand. It was a calculated gamble by the New Jersey Devils. Ace, you are a big Devils guy. The Buffalo Sabres played at the Odd and the Pittsburgh Penguins played at the Ice. I guess the Igloo. What was the name of the Devils Stadium back then? The old arena had multiple names. It was most recently, when the Devils played there, Continental Airlines Arena. And before that, it was Brendan Byrne Arena, one of the old governors of New Jersey. Jay Snow says, hey, Brady's with the Hughes in Jersey. It's happening. I talked about this before. Don't get super excited over Brady at the Parker House. Listen, he has a summer spot down there. Obviously, Jack is going to enjoy the Jersey Shore at points of the summer as well. I'm not running wild with this like many people are. It is funny to see the people going back and forth, but Dirty 13 Bird Ace, what rivalries do the Devils have? Could you give me a couple of them and tell me which one is your favorite? Right now, the biggest one is probably the Hurricanes, and it's pretty much a one-sided rivalry. But historically, Devils Rangers, that's still a rivalry as well. During the 90s, Devils Rangers had a great rivalry. It came back to life, in my opinion, with that 22-23 playoff series. And also in the late 90s and in early 2000s, Devils Flyers was a great one as well. Randich, we cannot be certain how Sonny will manage this team, but if his time with Zito and the Panthers is indicative of our moves, we won't make big UFA splashes and be more towards larger trades. However you got to do it. Get it done. Richie, my great nephews, 4 and 6 years old, were given little plastic hockey sticks. There was chocolate and icing all over the place. What is this mess? Uncle Richie, we used ring dings. Oh, my God. They used ring dings as a puck? Luke needs to take a big step this year. Would be nice. Samuel, don't really see much in affordable free agents that could help much. It's got to be by trade. Yeah, the free agents, the free agent class is not great. And trading is going to be tough because of the new contracts that are given out. Guys with term are going to be super valuable, and teams aren't going to be so eager to trade them. Continental is just such a clean name. Bobby, only let's say Sonny makes a push for Brady. Well, first of all, if the Senators tell the league that Brady's being shopped, half the league is going to try to get him. For the Devils, it definitely starts with that 12th overall pick, and then probably a roster player and a prospect or two, depending on who it is, or maybe multiple picks. It's going to take a lot. I think a lot of people would be surprised, but the 12th pick, a roster player, and maybe a prospect. Could a guy like Mercer be of interest to the Senators? Now you're talking about maybe the first, Mercer, and another piece or two. I don't know, but there's definitely, I think, several ways to make it happen. No. Titus, if you land Brady, then he sure is gone. We'd have too much locked in centers. Brady's a winger. There's no connection there. Richie's talking about rivalries. Devils Rangers, Devils Flyers, Devils Canes, Devils Detroit. Yeah, Detroit's like a newer one that seems to have been bubbling for a couple years. We will definitely get outbid in a Brady trade unless Nico is involved. I think we have the pieces to win, honestly. I think there is definitely a path to not get outbid. Jay Snow, getting Verhaeghe and a Forsling are the moves we need. Not saying we're going to get that caliber, but like that. Yeah, those are pretty sizable wins, right? I mean, if you could get a couple guys that are anywhere near that level of win for the Devils, that would definitely go a long way. Bobby, I'd also do a trade of Bratt and a first for Raymond and a prospect. Okay. Tasha's package is the 12th pick plus Mercer plus Salayev plus next year's first. Yeah, I mean, again, I think you could get creative. I would love to see Salayev eventually be crushing people on the blue line for the Devils, but could something like that be attractive? I certainly think so. You're talking about a 12th overall pick, next year's first, Mercer and Salayev. I think that's a pretty appealing package if you're the Senators. Now, does someone offer something you might more? Maybe. But then, there's other things you could swap in and out of there. Like the pieces I do believe are there. Renich, Brady has a full no move clause, so it depends who we are bidding versus. Yeah, I do think with only 2 years left in the deal, though, you may see Brady be willing to go to places, any decent city with a contending team, because he has the option of leaving in 2 years in free agency. So it's not like he could be stuck there forever. I think he would welcome the opportunity to play for a competitor. And given his ties to New Jersey and his friendship with the Hughes, I think New Jersey would have to be near the top of his list of teams he'd be willing to go to. Select a boy. People who are suggesting we trade Nico cannot name who we replace him with up to this day. Oh, I said it before. You're not replacing Nico. So in some world where Nico is traded, your center depth and your overall strength at the center position is 100% going down. That is just a fact. You're not going to replace him with anyone that you're going to be able to get. Chris, have to think NJ being Brady's preferred destination would be a huge advantage if they let his agent facilitate. You would think so. Bobby, did you see Friedman reported the Jets have been taking calls on Helly? When did he report that? I haven't. I think the last 32 thoughts I listened to was this, I guess, probably the second most recent one. Man, that's interesting. I don't think the Devils look at it, but man, he's a guy that when those rumors surfaced, I think it was the off season heading into 23-24. Myself and my buddy Steve the Maniac were stoked at the possibility of getting Hellebuck. We were both all about it. Like Uncle Lou has taught us, you build a team from the net out. Having a guy like Hellebuck, sick. Would have been sick. That's a win now move as well for whoever's trying to get him. Jason says, don't forget the golfing, Jack and Brady. Jack's out there recruiting. You never know, right? It'd be nice to be a fly on the wall and these sort of things. Brady revealed on his podcast recently that Jack brought him out golfing on Jack's birthday. Him and Brady went golfing. I'm sure these American heroes had a great time, and maybe it is a little bit of a recruiting trip. You guys know, again, I've talked about it forever, on and off. And refused to talk about it for a while because it seemed like the dream died. But now, given everything that's kind of happened in Ottawa in the past 4 months or so, 3 or 4 months, I think there's at least a little hope. And the biggest part of the hope is that, you know, the smoke has gotten a little thicker in the Ottawa situation. That combined with the fact that there's a new sheriff in town and Sonny Maida's here, I had zero confidence in Fitz ever being able to pull off a deal like that. But totally different ball game with Sonny Maida in charge, and so you never know. Send Bratt to Ottawa in the 12th pick. I certainly think something like that could get it done. You know, in place of a package similar to what Tasha just threw out there. I would love to see a world where somehow they got Brady in addition to the core four. But if you have to make a tough decision like that, then you got to make a tough decision, right? I mean, that is definitely changing the DNA of this team. Bobby, I know I enjoyed Marky's comments at locker cleanout, but you think Sonny keeps him. I don't think you see anything with the goalies just yet. I just think there's so many other areas that Sonny has to improve that I think you're gonna see Marky and Allen again, and you got to hope for the best. I think that's going to be the starting point. And if it continues to be problematic, then Sonny tries to kind of adjust on the fly. Jay Snow, how did I miss this live stream start? I didn't get a notification. Do you have notifications on, my man? If you did, I don't know. That's not me. I typically put these things on X and or Instagram earlier in the day as well. So you could follow on those places if you're not trying to miss a live. Nico's replacement, 6th overall, Cody Glass. That would be a travesty. Like Cody Glass, but he's got to be your 3 or 4C. I like Glasser, but I'd love a legit 3C. Yeah, I mean, on a true contending team, if you're building a real contender and Cody Glass is your 4C, that means you have some solid center depth, right? You got Jack, Nico, Cody Glass as the 3. If you brought in someone else as a 3C and Cody Glass was pushed down to 4, I mean, now you have some real depth. Some real depth. Justin Smith says Hamilton to the Sharks for the 2nd round pick. You wish you could get that for Dougie Hamilton. There's zero chance you get the 2nd pick for Dougie Hamilton. I think Jack and Brad are so similar, we need a different element. I think they're too similar as well. Not to say that there's not a value to have both of them, but when they're playing on a line together, I would like Jack to play with a more shoot first kind of guy, preferably with some size and nastiness. I wonder who that could be. Bobby, I'd like to keep Salayev. I've seen some of his highlights, and man, the guy can skate and lay the body. He'll be a great replacement for a guy like Dilly. Yeah, I think at a minimum you're 1 year away from that, though. He's not going to just jump into the NHL. I think he'll sign his entry level. He'll probably play a year at least in Utica, and then they'll reassess from there. But anytime you have a highly rated defensive prospect with that sort of size, definitely exciting. If they ever made a movie about the Devils' history, would you watch it? Of course. Richie, I know it was a very small sample size, but liked what little we saw at Bukestad. I mean, the bar was so low, right? I mean, I have to say, Was that improvement over the Dowlings and Bastions of the world? Absolutely. How much of an improvement? I don't know. I would like to see a little more, but I won't really. I'm kind of on the fence about it. Like someone else pointed out before, if you could push Cody Glass to 4C and bring in another 3C, I would be fine with him not being around. Jay Snow, look at Marner. He's now on a big, heavy team, so he doesn't get bullied around every night in the playoffs. He doesn't have to be the guy. Marner is just a beast, man. It's crazy. A second-round pick for Dougie would be amazing from the Sharks, but I don't know if that would happen. I think that's doable. Then there's obviously the possibility of the Devils getting a slightly better return if they're willing to retain on him, which hopefully if they do trade him, they are able to trade his full salary out and not have to retain any of it. That would be another kind of stumbling block. Jason, the Marner thing reminds me of the Timo problem. Bring in some more grit so Timo's not the only forward doing it. Would love to see. I talked about this a little bit earlier too. Bring in another guy that plays with some snarl and kind of activate Timo. I think that definitely is a thing. Jason, redo the entire fourth line. We need a physical forechecking fourth that can chip in a little. Yeah, no one's asking them to do all the heavy lifting, but you got to produce sometimes. Sometimes you need those bottom six guys to pull out a win when the big guns are going cold. And we saw that way too often this season. Does Paulie get re-signed? That is a very interesting one to me. That is one of the bigger kind of, I appreciate Paulie's game. Obviously a shootout specialist. Throws a lot of hits. Led the teams in hits 2 years ago. I'm not sure if he did last year, actually. I've been meaning to look that up. And I have no idea what type of contract he's going to be looking for. He made league minimum this year, I think, and potentially could be in line. Yeah, he led the team. He led the team again this season with 150 hits. He had more than that the year before. He had 150 this year, and he had 245 the year before. Damn, that's a huge 95 less hits. It's interesting. And still led the team. I'm really looking forward to watching the NHL this year. I definitely have to jump back and forth between NFL and NHL. There's nothing like the Stanley Cup playoffs. They're on now. I mean, not right this minute, but they're happening now. Bobby, stupid question, but how do you differentiate between a 3C and a 4C? To me, they are 6 of one, half dozen of the other. A lot of times they would be kind of, guys that kind of flop back and forth. But I think for your 3C, you'd like to see someone with a little more offensive flair. I mean, you can't just be living and dying with your top 6. And in recent times, the Devils, it seemed like that. And when Jack was out of the lineup, the top 6 not getting it done. Would like to see somebody with a little bit of that offensive upside as the 3C. And obviously Cody would bring it to 4C as well. But I do think Cody did a really good job last year as the 3C. But again, if you're trying to be a true contender, him as the 4C with someone with a little more offensive upside as a 3C would be a nice improvement. Don't know how likely it is. Listen, there's so many different spots when you look at this team where Sonny could go to try to improve. Jay Snow, when you had Christy on the other day and she asked when's the last time we had a goal on the forecheck, and I honestly couldn't remember. Yeah, it's embarrassing. Kyler's projection is $2 million. I'm letting him walk. Interesting. That's a nice raise. I'm not firmly against it, but again, everything's dominoes. What are the other pieces? Who else are you looking at? Jason says he's looked bad at the Worlds too. Cotter just needs to learn his role. He's a bottom 6 guy with bad hockey IQ. Damn, bro. Snow. No love for Paulie, huh? Dirty 13 Bird, who are your top favorite players of the Devils in the 90s? Marty Brodeur, Scott Stevens, Ken Danico, Scott Niedermeyer, Bobby Holik, Randy McKay, Mike Peluso, Johnny Mack, Did I say Claude Lemieux? There's tons. The old guard is crazy. Richie, I'm on the fence with Cotter, but if the contract was like 1.85 to 2.25 million, I'd be okay with him back. Bobby, personally, I love Cotter. I think we should keep him. I think he's just wildly misused. Snow says, listen, Cotter has all the hockey skill, but his decision-making is awful. Samuel, playing center was part of Paulie's problem last year. All right, I got to take a bathroom break, guys. So you know what I'm going to do? For those of you that joined a little bit later that may have missed it, I am going to replay. Or actually, let me do this real quick. Link in the chat. Show some love to my friends over at Low Sport. I just put the link in the chat. You may have missed it. We got the Team USA sweet jersey player hoodies. And the Jack Hughes has the J, folks. Unlike the Nike jerseys, we got J Hughes. I just dropped the link in the chat. Use code RWD15 for 15% off. This one's sweet. The white. The gold medal winning white with the J Hughes. This is just straight iconic. But check that out. Code RWD. I just dropped that link in the chat. But I'm going to take a quick bathroom break. I'm going to replay the Brenden Dillon segment that all those apparently juicy quotes, which was just confirming what a lot of us already knew. But I'm going to leave you with Dilly. I'm going to run to the bathroom, and I'll be right back. But here's for those that missed it, the Dilly comments on that show.
Right, Brenden, the Devils, 12 points out of a playoff spot. They have the Devils, you have a new general manager in Simon Nemec, who's got an issue on his hands. Simon Nemec, your defense partner, has asked for a trade. But have you talked with Sonny at all? And if so, what were your impressions?
Yeah, I had a great conversation with Sonny probably a week or two ago. Just kind of talking hockey, getting to know one another, and I feel for him, it's been well documented. He's from Jersey here. He loves the Devils. He's a big fan of the team, of kind of the pillars we seem to have in place here, and it was a disappointing season, no matter how you cut it for the Devils, individually, as a team. I mean, right on down from forwards to D to goaltending. There's a reason why we weren't in playoffs, and I think that's the key for us with the roster makeup we do have is we're built to win now. Sonny wants us to win now. Whatever way, I mean, we just got to get better in every facet, and I think for us as players, we should all have that chip on our shoulder and the mentality of going into your summer training and your summer ice sessions that we got a lot to prove next year. We're one of those teams that isn't going to be taken for serious next year because we weren't in playoffs, and we're just one of those 16 that was on the outside looking in. So that should piss us off. It should be something that Nemo. I enjoyed playing with him. He's got a bright future. He's a guy that I feel like between the offensive side of the puck, he wants the puck on his stick. He wants to be running a power play. We've got a lot of those guys here with between Dougie Hamilton and Lukehughes. So, that's above my pay grade in the sense of those decisions and how things are going to shake out. I feel like we had, unfortunately, a lot of those elephants in the room this year. That was just the reality of, is this guy upset because this guy's got more ice time, or I should be playing where that guy's playing, or I wish I was playing with that guy as my winger or D partner. And it's hard enough to win in this league when you're healthy and when you're just trying to beat the other team, let alone having other distractions going on. And we just had way too many of those that hopefully we'll get the ship righted and can get back to the winning ways we need to be at.
Okay. You're talking to a Vancouver audience. I have to ask you this. The Hughes brothers, did they ever talk about Quinn moving to New Jersey?
I mean, I think that was a well documented, whether it was social media or it was Donnie and Dolly's show or it was a
probably
Vancouver Sportsnet thing. I mean, you see the Foligno brothers, they get to play together this year, the joy they had for their families, their parents. I'm sure it's been talked about the Hughes household, and before those guys are all done, I'm sure they'd love to play with one another. I know how valuable Jack and Luke, their friendship and their brotherhood. And I know Quinn's a big part of that too, as the oldest brother. So whether that's them hanging out in New York at the end of their hockey seasons or just back in Michigan, I'm pretty sure all three still live together. But it's you just got to look at it from the hockey standpoint, I'm sure, from these GM chairs before you're looking at it from the what might sell some hockey jerseys. So, I think that's something for Luke too to keep in mind. And Dougie and Nemo, like you bring in Quinnhughes, well, all of a sudden your power play time is probably going to get back too, right? So, there's a lot of different factors that come in, and I know for myself, and I hope it's shared throughout everybody. Like we just want to win, and whatever that takes, and we'll kind of see how things play out this summer.
And there you have it. The Dilly comments heard around the world. Let me see what you got. Snow says, I think the fourth line is one thing we could do in free agency. Obviously, the bottom six guys are a little bit of an easier thing to grab in free agency. And it'll be interesting to see if Sonny does make any of those acquisitions as he looks to get this team ready for the 26-27 season. Snow, they need to make a USA basketball jersey for the summer. I saw those somewhere too. I think Bench Clears actually made a USA one. Not with players though. But they do have. You guys know I have a merchandise issue. I have a merchandise problem for sure, and I have multiple closets of hockey gear. Devils and random other things like all kinds of stuff. I've shown some of it, but here's actually the Bench Clears link. Snow to the USA jersey, the tank top, a pretty cool one for sure. They also have the blue, but the white, how are you not going to go with the classic white, the gold medal winning white? I just dropped that link in the chat. That's on my list to order in the next couple days as I get ready for the Jersey summer. I do love the summers. I miss hockey and New Jersey Devils hockey, but summer is fun. Concerts and barbecues and the beach and all the fun summer stuff. The Knicks have sucked my entire life. It'd be crazy to see them win a chip. I don't care. I mean, it'd be cool for the area and for all the people that are Knicks, longtime suffering Knicks fans. Yeah, so locked in. James, this summer is going to be very interesting with Sonny at the helm. Question, though, your thoughts on what he has done so far. Do you agree with everything? Does it show he's coming in with a clear head? I mean, what has he done in terms of – he hasn't done anything in terms of players. We saw Fletcher relieved of his duties, as well as Dan McKinnon, and then he brought in Braden Birch, so he brought in his own guy as assistant GM. I think that's perfectly fine. There's some sort of positional change for Sergey Breland. We don't really know what that looks like yet. And then beyond that, I mean, there's really not much else to talk about. I do think he's slowly going to craft his own team, which we've seen already take place with the things I just mentioned. And we'll see what he does in terms of player personnel. And we'll probably get, we're about a month away from the draft, and that's when we're going to see. Does he draft with the pick? Does he trade it? What happens with Nico? All of these things we'll have answers on in about a month or so. Of course I have Devil Summer stuff. But that USA bench clears tank is sick. Come on, get on the train. Listen, if I had to pick, I'm picking them, obviously. They're the local team. I just spilled something on me. Oh, yeah, and I forgot about Rogalski. A lot of people were dying for that. I don't think that's going to immediately improve the goaltending, but certainly the goaltenders have struggled for years, and so that's perfectly fine. But I'm not of the belief that, Rogalski's gone, so our goalies are going to be incredible now. You hope that they turn it around, but I personally have said forever, I'm not putting that much stock into that position in terms of make or break. Yes, no, doesn't the season start early this year with 2 extra games? Yeah, 84 game regular season coming up. The season will start in late September, and I'm looking forward to the schedule release. Always one of my favorite days of the year. Bobby, you going to try and interview Sonny or maybe Dano or a current player? I want to interview everybody. Metalhander Sarge, the comments would be a good fit. Would he want to go back to the AHL? I don't know. I think I'd prefer he sticks around the NHL club. And like I said, especially with these Russians, you got Grits down the line at some point in the near future, Salayev, Yegorov, maybe they're looking at some other Russians. I think that's a huge, benefit to what he could bring, but he's been around forever. And I think he's a valuable asset. Dirty 13 Bird, my favorite video that you made was the one about Sonny Maeda. Oh, thank you. Richie, where do you think Cassidy lands? No idea. I'm curious to see what becomes of Knobloch as well. And maybe those are two guys that Toronto looks at. Yeah, Rogalski was there when they won the cup with Binnington. And I think that was a thing that many people were excited about. Like, oh, he helped with Binnington's development. And again, how much can you credit to him? You never know, right? How much was Binnington? How much was him? I have no idea. That's why I'm just saying, for me personally, I'm not of the mindset that, oh, this guy is going to be some goalie whisperer, or on the flip side, a goalie killer. Like, you have to have good goalies. The coaching certainly plays a role, but I don't think it's the main factor of whether these guys are going to be good or not. If you look at Marky's stat card, he's on hard decline. Yeah, he's been dealing with a lot of injuries as of late, and he's older, obviously. You got to hope for the turnaround. Dirty 13 Bird says, you done with your Devil's Shade Ace? I didn't see you wearing them. Did you give up with that for a while? No, the future is always bright. I can fix that for you. The future is bright. Speaking of which reminds me, thank you very much, Dirty 13 Bird. Let me just see here. I don't think there's a bounce back coming. Give a Sarge a corner office next to Marty. I think Breland will be a little more involved with the day-to-day than Marty. Is Sarge's spot being replaced on the bench? They have not said yet. But which reminded me, stay tuned, folks. The big announcement is coming for the giveaway show. It's something I've talked about, and I apologize for the delay. I've been working through a lot of things in my personal life, and there's distractions and all these things, but I've talked about it for quite a while. I am going to do a very big giveaway show very soon. I think I'm going to call it the fan/viewer appreciation or something like that. But I am going to be giving away on a live stream a ton of merchandise and memorabilia, probably a jersey or two, T-shirts, pucks, signed photos, all kinds of little trinkets, all sorts of little trinkets and Devils merchandise and memorabilia. So keep your eyes peeled for that. That will be coming very soon. So keep your eyes peeled. That's certainly coming. Bobbleheads. I'm still weeding through tons of stuff, but the giveaway show is going to be one for the ages. So keep your eyes peeled for that. That announcement will be coming very soon. I'm trying to figure out when to do it. Because it's going to be a big one. Appreciate all you guys for your continued support, and we're going to do a nice giveaway show. Still not fully clear on how I'm going to do it all, but there'll be some trivia, channel trivia, Devils trivia. There'll be a bunch of different ways to win. There's going to be a ton of stuff. I'm still weeding through it. I got some of the Stanley Cup rings they gave away. Like I said, signed items, all sorts of stuff. So keep your eyes peeled for that. He says, no more future's bright. The moron's gone. The future's still bright, though. Besides the Preds, who else is missing a GM? Kraken, Blues, LA. I'm not sure offhand. What are you trying to figure out? Are you still on the Avs train? I'm all in on Vegas. Their back end is a bunch of tree trunks. It certainly seems like the Avs are in trouble, obviously. And shout out to my guy Ant, that predicted before the series that Vegas was going to beat them and go all the way. I thought Colorado was going to do it, but it certainly looks like Vegas is deadly right now. Are the New York Jets and New York Giants in New Jersey? Yes, they are. They both play at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. They do not play, while they're both called New York, they both play in New Jersey at the stadium where the upcoming World Cup will be held, which is in New Jersey. Anyone got anything else? I guess as a precursor to the giveaway show, as a precursor to the giveaway show, I'm going to give away a couple pairs of the Futures Bright glasses. Have some more of these to give away. You see on the one side, we have the Future is Bright, so you could have your retinas protected. And on this side, we got it's hard to get this in focus, the Running with the Devils little logo there. And the Future is Bright. So I'm going to give away a couple pairs of these right now, actually, to those in attendance. So I deserve some merch for putting up a hell of a fight flu game. Yo, my man Sam, I got you, Sam. What do you need? What an outing. Flu game. Samuel, damn shame the Hurricanes won tonight. Yeah, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? The Canadians couldn't get it done. James says, I'm sorry, Vegas has not been around the league long enough to deserve a cup. Well, I mean, it is their rise since becoming a franchise is pretty crazy. I mean, the success that they've had in such short order, and then winning a cup in 23 is pretty insane. Like, it's got to be nice to be a Golden Knights fan. I mean, they're in it every year. They are in on every guy being traded. Yeah, McCarr's a huge loss for anyone. Life is a complete dump. All right, I'm going to do a trivia here. We're going to do a trivia. We're going to do a trivia for the glasses. We're going to go with a trivia. Let me think about this. We're going to do some glasses. Hold on. I'll be back 1 second. Let me make sure I just got to make sure that they're still there. I know I have a few more, at least. Bear with me 1 second. All right. I just wanted to make sure those are still there. A lot of my friends and family have been claiming the glasses. All right. So let's see what we got. I'm going to do a trivia for a pair of glasses. I'll do a few. I got to think of a good question. First one will be channel trivia. Try to reward the people who have been viewers for a long time. Which of the 3 New Jersey Devils Stanley Cup championship teams was my favorite? First person to correctly answer in the chat will be the proud recipient of a pair of the Future is Bright glasses, so that your retinas can be protected from the bright future that this Devils team is about to embark on. And we have a winner, Meadowlander, very quickly. Even if you were guessing, even if you were guessing, you had a 1 in 3 chance. But Meadowlander is correct. It is in fact 2003. Meadowlander, you have my email. Shoot me your address, and I'll be sending these out on Memorial Day is Monday, so the post office is closed. On Tuesday, Meadowlander, you'll be getting your Future is Bright glasses shipped out. They'll be getting shipped out to you. So send me your address, Meadowlander, and you'll be getting those. Richie was right, but was in second place. But guess what, Richie? You also have my email address. Email me, Richie. You're also getting Future is Bright glasses, Richie. You are also getting Future is Bright glasses, Richie. Send me your address on Tuesday. I'll be shipping those out. And you know what, James? I'm in a great mood. You were third place, but guess what? You're also correct. Send me your address as well, James, and you will be getting your Future is Bright glasses. Metal Ender says, give mine away to someone else. Okay. Snow. Shoot me your address, Snow. Future is Bright. They ship on Tuesday. The question was, what is my favorite Devils Stanley Cup championship team? All right, so Metalander said give them to somebody else. A couple other people, I said. Email me your address too, Bobby. You guys are all longtime supporters. You guys appreciate. You guys deserve to have your retinas protected. So send me those addresses, and those Future is Bright glasses will be shipping out on Tuesday. Make sure those retinas are protected. Richie says, oh, baby, I look damn good in red. Yeah, just in time for the summertime, right? Protect your retinas from the summer sun and also from the bright future. I still thank God Fitz got fired. You guys are brutal. Dirty 13 Bird, are you a fan of the Ducks? I really love your shirt. So thank you. This is actually the logo. And I think you told us you're a younger fella, Dirty 13 Bird. This is the logo of the Mighty Ducks, the movie, their first team, which was in the first movie. That is the original Mighty Ducks logo. So that's what that is. It's technically not a logo of the Ducks in the NHL today. Rendich, I remember when we traded Sikora for Friesen, and I was so upset, but then Friesen had a monster playoffs, and I never should have doubted Lou. Again, I talk about this all the time. Lou made the difficult deals. Obviously, that one was shocking to the fan base when it happened, as was some of the other deals he made, like when McKay and Arnott were shipped to Dallas for Joe Neuendijk and Jamie Langenbrenner. Like, those were some of the shocking deals that you're like, damn. And they proved to be highly beneficial for the Devils, and some monster playoff performances from guys like Friesen and Jamie Langenbrenner. And without those deals, they may have never won that cup in 2003. Don't forget the bottle of 151. Oh, Snow, you don't want that. They just replayed the 95 Cup. It's crazy how talented that Red Wings team was. Yeah, no one on the planet gave the Devils a chance to win. And not only did the Devils win, they swept them. What a story. Miner says 2000 was the greatest team. 95 was the sentimental favorite. I could get that. All right, friends, that's it. That is it. For all of you that wanted the glasses, just shoot me your email. Tuesday shipping day because of the post office closure for Memorial Day. And that's it, folks. Stay tuned. The giveaway show is going to be crazy, though. I have like boxes of stuff that I'm going through. I might have some starting. Let me hold on. Let me see if I can pull a couple items. I forgot. I already moved them. I already moved them to sort them, but there's going to be pucks, pins, probably some hats, shirts, jerseys, signed stuff. There'll be lots of stuff. So keep your eyes peeled for the giveaway show. It should be a fun one. I'm going to try to have some fun special guests on there as well, and trying to do that sooner than later. So keep your eyes peeled. The giveaway show will be announced at a minimum a few days in advance. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Is there anything else? Snow, they're even better in 2001, didn't win. Yeah, the 2001 Devils team, what a story. They were great. But Ray Bork and the Avs. All right, that's it, folks. Email me your addresses. Enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. Enjoy your Memorial Day. Crappy weather. I think it's going to rain for a while here. Kind of sucks, but it is what it is. We still have, some playoffs to go. Some good playoff hockey, and that's it, friends. I'll be back soon. Like I said, keep your eyes peeled. The giveaway show is going to be one for the ages. Autographs, pucks, pins, bobbleheads, all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff will be given away. Fan appreciation. New Jersey Devils fan appreciation, and that's it. Anyone have any good movie suggestions before I get out of here? I'm probably going to fall asleep, but I did take a little nap earlier today, so I might be able to make it through a short one. Anyone have any good movie suggestions? It might be a two-parter for me. I hate that. A lot of times I fall asleep, and then I have to watch the second half the next day. Scary, or I'm not huge on the scary movies. I'm more of like a thriller, action, drama, or obviously comedies. I've seen No Country for Old Men. That's a great one with the steer gun. That steer gun was That's an interesting weapon. You're going with old movies. Anyone have any newer releases? Something newer? Cinderella Man. I saw that a while back. Might just do the old shuffle through the Netflix till something inspires me. They just don't make movies like they used to, though. The 90s were peak movies. That one I haven't seen. Is that good? I almost watched that recently as well. I don't know how that came across my my radar at some point recently. The Office is always reliable to sleep to. Bob Dylan movie was pretty good. The Fugitive. Oh, yeah, I saw that years ago, too. That's a great one. He did a Peter Pan right off this cliff. Excellent film. Ben Affleck, John Rosenthal, J.K. Simmons, very good. Top Gun Maverick. I'm not a Tom Cruise guy, I have to say. I'm not a big Tom Cruise guy. I don't know why. I just never was. I don't got anything else. Damn, it's 12 o'clock. No Kurt Warner movie. All right, that's it, friends. Thank you. Appreciate you all for coming out. Again, enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. If you're in New Jersey, it will be. I didn't kill my wife. I don't care. Yeah, rainy New Jersey. Memorial Day weekend rolls on. Appreciate everyone for coming out. Keep your eyes peeled. Put the notifications on. Subscribe if you haven't already. Obviously, subscribe. Put notifications on. You don't want to miss it. The giveaway show will be mega, and I'm going to try to, post it and announce it as far in advance as possible, but should at least be a few day notice. It's probably going to be a pretty long show. I'm going to hope to bring on some guests if possible, and be giving away a lot of cool Devils stuff. That's it, friends. Gonna go watch a movie, or at least some of one. Thank you all for watching. I love you all. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. Until next time, friends, let's go.